Chapter 121, I have half a fasting pill, do you want it? Chapter 121, I have half a fasting pill, do you want it? Su Clan's Shalu turned her head, too embarrassed to look at Song Shuhang. Looks like she didn't prepare Amy food or water. Asking others was never as good asking yourself. Song Shuhang checked his body, and found a bottle with 6 qi and blood pills, 1 stink pill, several treasure seals, money and his hand phone. But these things couldn't be eaten as food, and qi and blood pills couldn't alleviate hunger. This is, Song Shuhang finally came up with a pill. It was a fasting pill used before. A few days before Senior Medin Master had casually given it to him for lunch. He had only used it once, and had kept it afterwards. Luckily, he didn't randomly eat it in the past few days. Song Shuhang had a look of satisfaction as he popped the fasting pill into his mouth. A delicious taste spread through his mouth, and his stomach's hunger completely vanished. After his stomach felt slightly full, Song Shuhang took the fasting pill out, gingerly wiping the saliva away. This could perhaps still save a life in the future if it was kept, Song Shuhang thus thought. Gugugu, this was the weird sound made by a stomach? Ooh? My stomach is already full, why is it still rumbling? The fasting pill wouldn't have already expired, right? Song Shuhang rubbed his stomach in confusion. It was full, and there weren't any problems. Gugugu, there was another chain of rumbling sounds. Song Shuhang suspiciously looked at the Miss Su Clan's Shalu who had proclaimed that she could fast. Shalu turned away in embarrassment, blushing. Song Shuhang thought about it, testingly offering the fasting pill in his hand. If you don't mind, do you want to try it? No need, I can fa, rumbling sounds interrupted Shalu. Immediately, Shalu grit her teeth. My realm is different from yours. Even if I completely swallow this half a fasting pill, my hunger would only be slightly alleviated. Then you eat it. Song Shuhang said. Otherwise, if her little stomach kept rumbling, Song Shuhang would feel uncomfortable all over. Shalu accepted the fasting pill, and after thinking it through. When we're past this danger, I'll repay this fasting pill to you 100-fold. All right. Song Shuhang acted as if he was dealing with a child as he pacified her. Shalu sighed. She popped the pill in her mouth like she would do with medicine. With this pill to fill her up, her little stomach would finally stop chanting all those gugugu sounds. Song Shuhang took out his phone to open the chat software, and wanted to log into the 9 Provinces #1 group to take a look. Roughly by now, Su Clan's Chi should have hurried over here, and he could send over a distress call. But when he opened it, he realized he didn't have a signal. Ooh? There's no signal? Song Shuhang asked suspiciously. Of course there's no signal. If it didn't block off all messages, how could it be a secret room? Shalu answered. Then, she saw Song Shuhang's phone interface, and saw a familiar chat group in Song Shuhang's table of groups. She said in surprise, 9 Provinces #1 group. Ooh? You didn't know? You didn't take note of the group in this past few days? Song Shuhang asked back. I ran away from home, going onto the chat software would expose my position. I didn't even bring my phone out, or else Archie would come find me. It's very troublesome. Shalu responded as if this was obvious. No. Even if you don't go online, Archie can still find you. Song Shuhang ridiculed in his heart. Senior Archie was already on the way to the Jiangnan area now. Because there was no signal, Song Shuhang silently switched off his phone. He didn't plan to tell Shalu that Senior Archie was already coming over to the Jiangnan area to find her. It was still safer for Shalu to be brought home quickly. Did you guess my identity? Did Archie request everyone on the group to help him? Shalu suddenly asked. If this man was a new member of the 9 Provinces #1 group, then he would likely have guessed her identity already. Song Shuhang's face went stiff, trying to decide whether to fob her off with a white lie. No need to deny it. You're definitely not suited to lie. Your expression has already told me the answer. Shalu sighed. Miss, you're not Juyaya, all right? Don't just casually guess the correct answer from someone's expression. It's so rude. I'll have no more face if you do this. Will you say that I'm here to Archie? Ushaloo wrapped her arms around her knees, asking softly. Probably? Someone as rottenly good as you will definitely tell Archie. Ushaloo answered her own question. If you're going to say everything I have to say, what do I get to say? The two sides quietened down. After a while without words. In the end it was Song Shuhang who broke the silence, asking, why did you run away from the Su clan? Wouldn't you be able to get a better treatment at the Su clan? He remembered that on the day of the heavenly tribulation, Su clan's Archie had said on the group that Ushaloo had only suffered some slight wounds, which could be recovered when she went back to the clan. If that was so, why did she run away? And why did she have to regularly get injections? Because I'm about to die. In about 20 days, I will die. Ushaloo said peacefully. She hugged her knees. Su clan records have no methods to save me. Archie also can't. My injuries aren't just from the heavenly tribulation, but also some cultivation deviation I had before. This time's heavenly tribulation just worsened my previous injuries. Let's change this topic. I hate this topic. Ushaloo suddenly stopped explaining. You may my name already. My name is Ushaloo. This is also my Daoist title. What about you? You haven't introduced yourself to me yet. Song Shuhang. Daoist title? Ushaloo asked. Daoist title. I don't have one temporarily. I'll think about it in a few days. Song Shuhang sighed. This had to be quickly settled. Or else once all the seniors recognized him as great pressure of MT books, it'll be hard to make them change it. You'll think of it yourself? Which senior in the group are you apprenticing under? Your master isn't giving you your Daoist title? Ushaloo asked suspiciously. Formally accepted disciples would always be given their Daoist titles. And for a disciple that would be introduced to the 9 provinces #1 group, it must be one greatly favored by that senior. How could he have no Daoist title? About that, the process I joined the 9 provinces #1 group with was rather coincidental. Song Shuhang scratched his head and began to narrate how he had joined the group to Ushaloo. Song Shuhang quietly explained, and Ushaloo hugged her knees as she listened quietly. It's roughly something like that. Song Shuhang shrugged his shoulders, saying, You chose yourself to be a cultivator? Ushaloo looked at Song Shuhang. Could you not be aware of the dangers? Like the heavenly tribulation I met, and much more. There are uncountable dangers. I know. When I chose to be a cultivator I already knew about the heavenly tribulation you met. Actually, I even witnessed that heavenly tribulation lightning that formed. Song Shuhang said calmly. Then why did you choose to become a cultivator? Ushaloo opened her eyes wide, staring at Song Shuhang. Why? Song Shuhang thought about it. He answered, perhaps, I wasn't satisfied with living this life ordinarily. Before becoming a cultivator, the only thing that made me happy in this world was to put my all into helping people. If I didn't meet the 9 provinces #1 group, perhaps I'll live an ordinary life like normal people. But that is not the life I want. I don't have much ambitions, but I like a magnificent and exciting life. Even if there are the terrifying lightning tribulations, even if there are the calamities brought forth from evil cultivators, I will never ever regret my choice. Song Shuhang realized he was unable to use any appropriate phrases to describe what he felt. All he wanted to express was that the path of cultivation was one he would never regret. Ushaloo rolled her eyes. I suddenly feel that there is something very off about you when you act passionate. But it's quite interesting. Prepare, we're about to leave. Her pain from her injuries had subsided even earlier. Now, her body had accumulated some small amounts of true qi, enough to deal with the immortal farming sect uncle. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 122, The Imprint from the Flying Sword. Chapter 122, The Imprint from the Flying Sword. The two of them left the secret room. Su Clan's Shalu lead the way, while Song Shuhang followed behind, to the living room. On the sofa, the immortal farming sect uncle opened his eyes, gazing coldly at the two. So you finally came out. I already long since knew that you two had never left this apartment. He had guessed that the two were somewhere in the apartment. If taking apart the building wouldn't have attracted the attention of all the normal people in this block, he would have long since started to take apart this apartment. You shouldn't have stayed behind. Su Clan's Shalu's voice was cold as she said indifferently. Bullshit. Why shouldn't I have stayed behind? The immortal farming sect uncle rose to his feet, roaring. At the same time, his bones let out cracking sounds, and his hands became claws. Every finger was releasing true chi, and were as sharp as the edge of a knife. Su Clan's Shalu's face was calm. She gently raised her right hand, using her palm as a saber. Come then. Compared to the immortal farming sect uncle, her figure seemed small, and seemed so frail that it wouldn't even be able to block the wind. But when she raised her right hand, a tyrannically imposing manner seemed to emanate from her. That jade-white palm one seemed to transform into the divine weapon that had split the heavens and the earth too, a radiant saber light shining. The immortal farming sect uncle was pressured by her imposing manner, and roared as he leapt into the air. He was like a falcon who had spread his wings, attempting to use a rushing attack to break through Shalu's oppression. When ordinary fighters entered close combat, what they were most wary of was being in midair with nowhere to leverage their strength. However, these actions of the uncle seemed to go against this common sense, and while his body was in midair, swift and fierce claw attacks continuously rained down, transforming into layer upon layer of illusionary claws that clustered over her head as it descended. Su Clan's Shalu didn't make any flashy movements. Using her palm as a saber, she used that saber to chop at the layers upon layers of illusory claws. In that moment, saber light flashed, and the force behind that saber was like the tempestuous waters of the Yellow River as it surged forward. The uncle's claw technique was definitely unordinarily fierce and swift. However, it was difficult to use the power of a person's claw attacks to resist the might of the surging Yellow River. Rip! The swift and fierce claw attacks was forcibly broken through by that saber light, and the uncle's hands were covered by a bloody haze, and his figure was sent flying. He crashed into the household decorations on the way, heavily crashing onto the ground. A rank 3 Huqian was completely out of the league of a rank 2 true master. Even if the Huqian was heavily injured, as long as they could launch an attack, defeating a true master was as easy as turning over their hand. After Su Clan's Shalu had chopped out with this saber, her face became pale, and her breathing became hurried. The immortal farming sect uncle climbed to his feet slowly, his hands trembling, and flowing with fresh blood. I've already held back with this saber strike. In 3 days' time I will bring Su Clan's chi over, and clarify matters with your immortal farming sect to settle our karma. Before that, behave yourself. Go, I won't take your life for now. Su Clan's Shalu said in a low voice. Impossible. As long I'm not dead, I won't leave. The uncle's gaze was ferocious. I'll bet my life on it to capture you. Also, after chopping out with that saber, how much true chi could you have left? Su Clan's Shalu frowned, then said impatiently, then go and die. She detested this kind of stubborn old fogies. That jade-like hand raised again, saber light flashing. Did he really think she was a rottenly good person like that Song Shuhang behind her? If he really wanted to court death, then she'll grant his wish. Ha! The uncle roared as he leapt forward, his legs bursting with true chi, his body revolved, and was like a poison dragon making a drill attack on Su Clan's Shalu. Boom! The two sides closed in on each other again, their true chi both bursting out, creating terrifying booming and thunderous roars. Ah ha ha ha! Now, the uncle's mouth began to make strange cries. Immediately afterwards, his entire body drew a strange arc as he shot towards the balcony. Bang! The balcony's decorations were smashed into pieces. In the next moment, the uncle dragged his heavily injured body, and jumped off the balcony. He left a last parting shot, "You wait, Su clan descendant. I'll be back." Having said so, he escaped into the distance without even turning his head back. He had fled. He had fled just like that? He had been so lofty and heroic before, welcoming death unflinchingly. In the next moment, he had ran off after delivering a parting shot. Amazing! Song Shuhang sighed internally. Just now when the uncle and Ushalu had fought, he couldn't even make out the moves made out by both sides clearly. That speed had far exceeded the theoretical limit of the human body. The saber light on Ushalu flickered unstably, and she had a look of suspicion on her face. In the second attack, her attack had only lightly brushed against the uncle's legs. The uncle had then detonated his own true chi, creating fierce collision sound effects, then he had let out a miserable shriek as he had retreated, and escaped from the balcony. Was the uncle bluffing and blustering, and taking the opportunity to escape? Or, was there a scheme? Do you know any spiritual energy detection techniques? Ushalu neared Song Shuhang, and used a soft voice only the two of them could hear. If it was possible, secret arts of the secret sound transmission type would have been more suitable. But unfortunately, it was a pity that her current state wasn't good. Even standing was taking a lot of effort. Now, even activating a spiritual energy detection technique was beyond her, to say nothing of a secret sound transmission. Song Shuhang nodded slightly, activating his spiritual energy. He used an omnidirectional detection technique to spread out his spiritual force. After detection, there were no abnormalities and no gains from the scan. But Song Shuhang's heart suddenly felt a sense of unease. This unease was very strong, and he was unable to ignore it. Song Shuhang frowned, and used detection techniques and alert techniques again. There wasn't any gains again. His spiritual energy was very weak, and the radius he could detect within was very small. The more it was like this, the more unease he felt in his heart. "Are there any abnormalities?" Ushalu asked in a low voice. "I can't sense anything," but Song Shuhang stopped halfway, and his mind flashed. His spiritual energy revolved in a different way, and a different spiritual energy technique was used. Imprint sensing art. This was the technique sent to him over the internet by Great Master Tongshuan's disciple's apprentice brother 3 Days, which could sense that stolen flying sword of Great Master Tongxian. When this imprint sensing art was spread out, Song Shuhang immediately sensed the coordinates of the imprint. On this block's 3rd floor, a seemingly ordinary resident was walking up the stairs. He had a guitar case on his back, which contained the stolen flying sword of Great Master Tongxian. The figure was climbing up the stairs, neither slow nor showing any flaws. His body actually had some aura-concealing technique or treasure. If not for the imprint on the flying sword, Song Shuhang would never have noticed him. Was it a partner of the immortal farming sect uncle? Or was it the Oriole stalking the cicada from behind? What did you discover? Ushalu sat on the sofa, trying her best to recover the spent true chi. Someone's coming. Song Shuhang said softly. He's nearing. Can you still make a move? At the same time, he took out his handphone and quickly typed. No longer in the secret room, his signal was no longer blocked. Wasn't this the time to call for backup? He quickly left a message to Senior North River, giving a summary of the situation as well as his position. He asked Senior North River to quickly contact Su Clan's Chi, just in case. Because of my internal injuries, my true chi won't recover so fast. Ushalu bitterly laughed. Then, should I go ask the seniors in the group how to prepare a last will? Song Shuhang laughed as he closed his phone. As he spoke, various thoughts appeared in Song Shuhang's head. The man carrying the flying sword who was hiddenly approaching was the senior apprentice brother from the Moonsaber sect. This was the Moonsaber sect disciple who had seized the godly invisible sword from his apprentice brother who led a hard life. That apprentice brother who led a hard life now even had his legs broken and was being detained by Sima Jiang. That fellow from the immortal farming sect and the Su clan's Shalu have already come into contact and exchanged moves. It's time to act. A chance has come. The smiling expression of the Moonsaber sect senior apprentice brother was that of one who completely had the situation under his control. He slowly got nearer to Arshilu's and Song Shuhang's position. There was only one order he had received from the higher-ups of the Moonsaber sect. When the people from the Immortal Farming sect had come into contact with the Su clan descendant, kill the Su clan descendant. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 123, Incantation, Abbot Tongxian is the most handsome me. Chapter 123, Incantation, Abbot Tongxian is the most handsome me. This Moonsaber sect senior apprentice brother had obtained information on the Su clan descendant from the higher-ups of the Moonsaber sect. Su clans are Shilu, rank 3 cultivation and heavily injured from a failed heavenly tribulation. After waiting for so long, the Immortal Farming sect fellow has finally made contact with Su clans Arshilu. The time for him to complete his mission had finally come. This Moonsaber sect senior apprentice brother stroked the guitar case. With this recently acquired godly invisible sword, and together with the treasure talisman the sect had given him, assassinating Su clan's Arshilu would be easy as stretching his hand, and the entire matter would be settled. Very quickly, he reached the Andy Block 19th floor. Without hiding, he walked calmly to Su clan's Arshilu's apartment like an ordinary passerby. In the long hallway, as the Moonsaber sect senior apprentice brother walked, he retrieved the guitar case from his back. When the guitar case opened, what was revealed was an ordinary inside of a guitar case as well as a godly invisible sword. He lightly grasped the godly invisible sword, and closed the guitar case before slinging it on his back again. Lifting his head, then adjusting his breathing. The true qi in his dantian was activated, slowly gathering in his legs. When he neared his target, he would stab out with his strongest sword attack. Step, 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 suddenly, hurried steps sounded out. The Moonsaber sect senior apprentice brother lifted his head, and saw a youth carrying a large cardboard box as he approached him. The cardboard box was very large, and covered half of the head of the youth. It was an ordinary person. None of the aura of a cultivator could be sensed on him. Was he a resident here? The Moonsaber sect senior apprentice brother maintained his strict caution, and shifted to the side. He only had one target now, Su clan's Arshilu. Now wasn't the time to cause other problems. The cardboard box carrying youth brushed against him. The Moonsaber sect senior apprentice brother continued to maintain his strict caution, approaching Su clan's Arshilu's apartment. After walking for 5 or 6 meters, the youth behind him gasped for air, and his whole face was full of sweat. He placed the cardboard box on the floor. The Moonsaber sect senior apprentice brother paused, and no longer took note of the youth behind, because he had seen his target. Arshilu's face was pale, and was sitting on her sofa recovering her true qi. Arshilu was completely unprepared. This was a true heaven-sent chance. The Moonsaber sect senior apprentice brother's eyes shined. He grasped the godly invisible sword, and threw the guitar case to the side. His killing intent exploded. The long-since gathered true qi in his legs exploded, and his body tilted to the front. He was about to pierce out with a magnificent sword attack and see Su clan's Arshilu's life. But he didn't notice that cardboard-carrying youth behind him made a series of complicated hand seals, and was at the same time silently chanting an incantation. When the Moonsaber sect senior apprentice brother shot out, the youth shouted out, "Abbot Tongxian is the most handsome me, one." The voice reverberated in his ears. What nonsense is this? The Moonsaber sect senior apprentice brother's mind felt some suspicion rise. But at this moment, the godly invisible sword in his hand suddenly radiated out a pale golden sword light. Then, the sword suddenly began to tremble madly in his hands. A powerful force was transmitted from the sword, and the godly sword came to life. It wanted to extricate itself from his grasp. Suddenly pulled by this unexpected force, the Moonsaber sect senior apprentice brother almost got dragged along on the ground. he hastily manipulated the true chi gathered on his legs to stabilize his figure. Feeling something wrong, he immediately let go, letting the godly invisible sword fly out of his grasp. At the same time, he looked back, looking at that youth who had brushed against him. It had been after he had shouted that the godly invisible sword had changed so. What he saw now frightened him out of his wits. He saw the youth clasping one of his hands on his chest, making a remote sword hand seal. His other hand used a finger as a sword, lightly slashing towards him. Chop! In mid-air, the godly invisible sword couldn't be seen as usual, and only the pale golden light it emanated could be seen. The sword light flashed, and like lightning, the sword violently chopped down towards the Moonsaber sect senior apprentice brother. Remote sword arts. Rank for cultivator. The Moonsaber sect senior apprentice brother shouted. Only after a rank for cultivator condensed all their true chi in their body into a true origin, could they remotely control flying swords, and use swords to achieve flight. This seemingly ordinary youth was actually a rank for cultivator senior. What was more important was, the flying sword in his hand belonged to this rank for cultivator. That stupid apprentice brother screwed me over? All these thoughts were just the thoughts that appeared in his mind in just a split second. Then, the small iron sword that had been mistaken as a godly invisible sword chopped viciously into his chest. Neither able to avoid nor resist. Because the sword was so fast that it had no equal. When Song Shuhang had just finished saying chop, it had already landed on its target. Fresh blood sprayed out, and blood splattered all over. The small iron sword cut halfway through his body. That one strike had caused all his ribs to be cut through, and his internal organs to be heavily injured. With just the fleshy body of a rank 2 cultivator, it wasn't possible to block the sharpness of a flying sword. The Moonsaber sect senior apprentice brother landed with a loud crash, painfully wailing, "Senior, let me off. I know my wrong, senior, let me off." Song Shuhang's face was peaceful, and didn't seem to care about the other side's miserable shrieks. The other side vastly surpassed him in strength, and wasn't any weaker than Altar Master. Song Shuhang couldn't help but be careful. His left hand maintained the connection with the iron flying sword, while he used his right hand's finger as a sword, waving it 4 times. The iron flying sword withdrew from the Moonsaber sect senior apprentice brother's wounds, and fresh blood splattered. Then, the flying sword chopped out 4 times, severing his 4 limbs. Ah ha ha! The Moonsaber sect senior apprentice brother continuously wailed, and turning into a human stick, but had no ability to resist. "Return!" Song Shuhang said lightly, and the small iron sword flashed, scurrying back to him and stably floating in midair. Song Shuhang extended his hand, and the small iron sword landed softly in his hand. Temporary remote sword art. This was the revised work from a time Great Master Tongxian had failed. When Song Shuhang had brushed against the Moonsaber sect senior apprentice brother, he had confirmed whether the iron flying sword had the temporary remote sword art formation of Great Master Tongxian on it. If there hadn't been, he would have been forced to use his remaining 2-sword talisman. However, he lacked the confidence to finish him off with 2-sword talismans. He had needed 3 on a poisoned Altar Master that time after all. Fortunately, this small iron sword had the ability of the temporary remote sword art on it. As for that line, Abbot Tongxian is the most HANDSOOMMMMEEE, that was the incantation to activate the temporary remote sword art. To think that this shameless incantation would come from the Great Master Tongxian, who was training silent meditation. Or perhaps, because he had been silent for so long, he had become outwardly cold but deep and passionate inside? Lightly stroking the small iron sword, the spiritual energy left behind by Great Master Tongxian had been almost exhausted. It could no longer activate the temporary remote sword art. Song Shuhang recalled that beautiful experience of controlling the sword. The ability to sever the head of an enemy from 1,000 miles away, that was simply too beautiful to be described with words. His heart involuntarily formed an incomparably ardent wish. Rank for cultivation, and remote sword arts. After experiencing the temporary remote sword art, it was just like watching a spectacular movie advertisement, where one only felt an itch in their heart to watch the movie immediately. Song Shuhang truly wanted to immediately become a rank 4 cultivator, remotely control swords, and step onto sword light and soar into the sky. In the apartment, Arshalu rose to her feet, her pale face having recovered some color. She came before the Moonsaber sect senior apprentice brother, saying, "Out with it. Who are you? Why did you want to kill me?" She had felt clearly that moment of killing intent. She had originally thought that the enemy was together with the immortal farming sect uncle. Now it seemed that this wasn't the case. The immortal farming sect had wanted to capture her alive and seek redress from Archie. But the assassin before her wanted to kill her. 1. The most direct translation would just be Abbot Tongxian is the most handsome. However, I felt that this wouldn't convey how ridiculous the incantation was and how it wasn't as particularly funny as it should be like this. Since the whole point was to translate the humor, I didn't just literally translate it, and I took the liberty to play around with the punctuation. However, I'm not particularly satisfied with it yet. Any better suggestions that could make it funnier and more ridiculous? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 124, A Valuable Lead. Chapter 124, A Valuable Lead. The Moonsaber sect senior apprentice brother laughed wretchedly, and shook his head, not answering. "Since you know my name, you should know my identity," Su Clan's Arshalu said indifferently. "Even if you don't answer, I just need to bring you back to the Su Clan. There are methods to make you spit out everything. Even if you die, I have methods to extract your soul and get the answers to the questions I have." Her words weren't a threat. As an ancient cultivator clan, the Su Clan possessed many methods that even gods or ghosts couldn't fathom. The Moonsaber sect senior apprentice brother felt unease. The might and methods of the Su Clan was something he naturally knew. But he was still hesitating. He had had his full limbs cut off, and if he were to expose information about the Moonsaber sect now, even if Su Clan's Arshalu let him off, the Moonsaber sect sure wouldn't. He would die anyways no matter what. Su Clan's Arshalu seemed to be able to read his mind, and said again, "Say everything you know, and I'll let you have a simple death." Death had its differences between a simple death and an agonizing and very painful death. The result wasn't important, but the process. Song Shuhang collected the iron flying sword, and said to Arshalu, "He should be trying to frame them, right? Just as the immortal farming sect uncle had come into contact with you, he immediately prepared to kill someone. If he succeeded, and did a little covering up, then at that time everyone would think the immortal farming sect uncle killed you. If the matter was covered up, then Senior Archie would definitely seek revenge against the immortal farming sect. When the kingfisher and clam fight, the fisherman would have a chance for benefit. I think that him or the power behind him has some grudge against the immortal farming sect. Or perhaps they want something from the immortal farming sect. As for why Song Shuhang knew so much, didn't shows always have this kind of plot? When one thought through it, those shows all had similar answers. The Moonsaber sect senior apprentice brother's expression became uglier. "Looks like you guessed correctly." A small palm-sized pocket knife appeared in Arshalu's hands. With the rest just now, she had recovered some of her true chi. She neared the Moonsaber sect senior apprentice brother. "I'll ask you one last time. Your name, origin, and your reason to assassinate me." As Su Clan's Arshalu neared the Moonsaber sect senior apprentice brother, he suddenly burst out laughing. "Ha ha ha ha!" Immediately, he spat out a paper talisman from his mouth. The paper talisman flashed in mid-air, transforming into a blood-colored saber. A putrid smell of blood began to waft out, and that evil saber hacked at Su Clan's Arshalu's head. This was the talisman his sect had provided him, in order to kill Arshalu. He had endured for so long, just to wait for her to enter the attack range of the treasure talisman. However, Arshalu had long since been prepared, and when she lightly waved that palm-sized pocket knife, she blocked that blood-colored saber. Arshalu said, "I already long knew you still some tricks up your sleeves, one." After the blood saber shattered, the Moonsaber sect senior apprentice brother seemed to receive some kind of feedback, and let out a continuous shriek, Ah ha ha ha. Arshalou frowned, feeling something off. Her body flashed, and the pocket knife in her hand stabbed towards the other side's head. But before her knife could plunge in, abnormal changes occurred. Ah ha ha ha. The Moonsaber sect senior apprentice brother's shrieks became even more piercing. At the same time, the shattered blood-colored talisman spell extended a thread of blood, connecting to his body. The senior apprentice brother's spirit, chi, and blood flowed through the blood thread, unceasingly being fused into the blood-colored saber. The shattered saber regenerated, and with one tremble, chopped towards Arshalou. The situation had changed extremely quickly. Arshalou could use her knife to defend. Block! This blood saber was much faster and vicious than before. Although Arshalou blocked this saber, she was forced to retreat several steps. Blood Saber Evil Sect secret technique, the Blood God Saber? She recognized this blood-colored saber talisman spell's origin. Blood Saber Evil Sect, that was a long-exterminated evil sect. The sect disciples used blood as the source of their strength, using blood essence and souls as the foundation of their innate evil sabers. Every time they used one of these innate evil sabers, they would oftentimes have to do the life sacrifice of several hundred people's lives. And for the breakthroughs in rank for the disciples of the Blood Saber Evil Sect, countless slaughter was needed to raise the rank of their innate evil sabers. In the end, that evil sect had enraged too much of the public. The sect had been exterminated, its legacy cut off, and all its evil secret arts had been destroyed cleanly. It was unexpected that traces of that Blood Saber Evil Saber sect continued to exist. The spell inside the talisman was a portion of the Blood God Saber secret technique. As long as it had sufficient blood and spiritual energy, the Blood God Saber wouldn't dissipate. Ah ha ha ha, go die for Emmy. The Moonsaber sect senior apprentice brother raved madly, his body continuously becoming more emaciated and skinny. With each collision between the Blood God Saber and Arshalou, that evil saber would continuously draw out his blood essence and soul energy to repair itself from the damage it had taken. Every draining brought about indescribable pain and despair. But as the Blood God Saber absorbed more and more, it became stronger as well. If this continued, the originally heavily injured Arshalou may not be able to hold on. Kill you, or the Moonsaber sect senior apprentice brother raved madly. This was a true life-for-life exchange. It all depended on whether he was drained dry of his blood essence or soul, or was Arshalou chopped by the Blood God Saber first. Ding! 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 Arshalou continuously received 7 attacks, unceasingly retreating. The intense battle left her no ability to suppress her internal wounds, and her face was pale. Finally, when resisting the 8th strike, her small knife was wrenched out of her grasp. I won. Arshalou. The Moonsaber sect senior apprentice brother laughed madly. He voluntarily sent his own blood essence into the Blood God Saber, and immediately, the Blood God Saber expanded by 1-fold. As long he chopped Arshalou, he had hope to live. Whether severed limbs or expended blood essence, all could be healed by the sect during the rewarding. As long as Arshalou was killed. The Moonsaber sect senior apprentice brother had a vile look on his face, carrying hints of hope and being pleased. Arshalou's face was pale, and could only face the expanded Blood God Saber. Cut! At this moment, a black flying sword drew an arc of sword light, and the Moonsaber sect senior apprentice brother's head was chopped off by a sword. He had a large amount of his spiritual force and essence blood drained by the Blood God Saber. As soon as his head was cut off, his vitality was completely extinguished, and he was completely dead. The change was sudden, and the hideous smile and pleased expression that the Moonsaber sect senior apprentice brother had right before his death was still on his face. It was Song Shuhang. Unknowingly, he had crept behind the Moonsaber sect senior apprentice brother, and his sword had descended, and sent his head flying. Cultivators had countless methods to protect their lives and go all out. Song Shuhang had never forgotten what Jiang Xian had said at that time. Even if he had crippled the other side's arms and legs, he had never relaxed his guard. after losing the support of its master, the blood god saber, produced by the spell in the talisman shattered? And the talisman became ash. Thank you. Arshalu's face was pale as she said softly. Once again, she owed him. No problem. Song Shuhang replied as usual. At the same time he exhaled deeply, settling his emotions, and adjusting his mental state. Arshalu picked up her knife, and returned to the corpse to examine it. He has nothing to identify him on him, his soul has also dissipated already. It'll be troublesome to discover his origin. Arshalu said gloomily. There's no problem ascertaining his identity. Song Shuhang had an outline in his head. The iron flying sword had a valuable lead. But before that, they had a small problem. 1. See what I did there. He has no sleeves. Or even hands. Ha 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 ha, sorry lousy joke. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 125, The Refined Young Master High. Chapter 125, The Refined Young Master High 1. Dealing with the bloodstains and assassin's corpse on the ground was a major problem. Corpse-dissolving fluid couldn't deal with the fleshy body of a rank 2 cultivator. Also, the noise and disturbance from the battle, as well as the shrieks of the assassin before he died, would likely have attracted the attention of the other residents of the building. It was likely that other people would soon come to investigate. If the residents called the police after noticing the abnormal situation, it would be very troublesome. There wasn't a bald Western monk to take the blame this time. Speaking of the Western monk, was he well in the prison? Or had he been released yet? Oh wait, we got sidetracked. We need to deal with this corpse first. Song Shuhang said. Su Clan's Arshalu nodded. The corpse can be moved to secret room for now. I'll contact the Su Clan for now, and we'll get the relevant people to deal with this. No traces will be left behind. The bloodstains outside can be dealt with me now. The two moved the corpse to the secret room. Then Arshalu took out a bottle of medicinal liquid and sprinkled some on the place of battle. When this medicinal liquid came in contact with the traces of blood, it quickly fused together. In a blink of an eye, all the blood was completely cleaned, and even the smell of blood had been cleared, and only a mild medicinal smell was left. Apart from the saber scars left in the hallway and apartment walls, there no longer seemed to be any abnormalities. As for the CCTV, Su Clan's Arshalu had already meddled with it since the day she moved here. We'll leave it like this temporarily. Everything else will be left to the experts. Arshalu weakly sat on the sofa, unmoving. Song Shuhang also exhaled. He took out his handphone to check the time, and it was already 1:03 in the afternoon. He still had to get to the driving center by 2, to swipe his card for attendance at the theory lesson area. Then, he had to send Zhao Yaya to the station. The time when he had to swipe his card was still 1 hour away, and the time could still be considered plentiful. Song Shuhang opened the 9 Provinces number 1 group. In the group, loose practitioner North River left a worried message. Little friend Shuhang, how's the situation? Are the two of you all right? I've already contacted Archie. He's en route now. Thank you for Senior's concern. Thanks to Great Master Tongxuan's flying sword, we've temporarily passed this tribulation. We're now safe. Song Shuhang replied. Loose practitioner had always been online, and when he saw that message, he finally sighed in relief. Stay there. Archie will be there in 10 minutes. All right. Song Shuhang replied. As he finished typing, he realized that Su Clan's Arshalu had crept behind him at some unknown point in time, and was looking over his head at his chat log. I don't want to see Archie, Arshalu said seriously as she stared at him. Song Shuhang immediately advised. Be a good girl and don't throw a tantrum. Your wounds are so serious now, and there's still that immortal farming sect uncle who wants to capture you alive. These various problems will be much safer after Archie joins up with us. Senior Archie is also very worried about you. Arshalu frowned. Originally, if she didn't want to see Archie, she would definitely have immediately run away. But Song Shuhang had saved her several times within the span of one day. She owed too much of a debt to him, so she didn't feel good rejecting Song Shuhang's suggestion. She could only sulkingly pout. When Senior Archie comes, I'll be returning to Jiangnan University City. Stop being so pessimistic. Perhaps Senior Archie has found a way to cure your injuries. Song Shuhang comforted her. How could it be so easy? Ashilu muttered. She was the one clearest about her own condition. She didn't have much time left. Just as Song Shuhang was about to give a few more words of comfort, his hand phone rang. Swiping it open, he saw that it was Zhu Yaya that had called. Song Shuhang cleared his throat and accepted the call. Is anything the matter, big sis? Hey, Shuhang. What's wrong with your phone? I haven't been able to get through. Zhu Yaya asked. Song Shuhang honestly replied. I was just in an area with no signal. I just came out from there. Where are you now? Zhu Yaya asked again. Also, where did you run off to in the morning? I heard from Dr. Li that you carried off the patient from room 570. And even just brought along a blanket from the hospital? I had to help you pay for it, you know. Song Shuhang gazed at the blanket just thrown aside on the sofa, speechless. Why did you carry away the little miss for? That little miss is still injured. Zhu Yaya rapidly fired off questions. Song Shuhang scratched his head, wondering how to explain to Zhu Yaya. At this time, there was the sound of someone knocking on the door. Song Shuhang lifted his head to take a look. The door hadn't been closed after the adorably foolish uncle had broken it down, but a middle-aged man was still knocking politely on it. Sorry, did something happen here just now? The middle-aged man asked politely. He could see that the apartment was in a mess, like it had been ransacked, and even the main door's lock was broken. Adding on, there were even a period of goosebump-inducing shrieks too. Under the urging of his curiosity, he had come over to take a look. Excuse me, just now me and my friend were having an argument. We angrily broke some things, and bothered you. Su Clan's Shalu rose to her feet, calmly responding. The middle-aged man suddenly sighed. The youths these days were always losing their tempers, and even made a mess of their homes during their arguments. He laughed and gave some words of comfort. He didn't bother the two of them any longer, and returned to his apartment. Su Clan's Shalu's voice traveled through the phone to Zhu Yaya. Zhu Yaya's heart trembled, and she asked, Shuhang, you're still with that little miss? Where are the two of you now? What have you been doing all this time? Big sis, this matter can't be explained in a short while. I'll explain it to you face to face later. That's it, I'll be hanging up now. Song Shuhang quickly hung up. He had to arrange his thoughts so as to easily respond to Zhu Yaya's countless questions later. Ashilu huddled onto the sofa again, and began to ponder about the origins of the assassin. That's right, Song Shuhang had said before that he had a way to find out the assassin's identity. Ashilu's heart began to get restless. At the same time, in one of China's areas with high mountains and untouched forests, there was a region humans had never explored before. The Moonsaber sect was located here. The Moonsaber sect leader, the tyrant of 1,000 soldiers, was frowning as he reclined on a chair made of ice. He was having a conversation on the latest iPhone. What? The assassination failed? Su Clan's Shalu wasn't killed? Trash! The lord of 1,000 soldiers frowned and sighed. His breath had a lingering smell of something charred. Not only that, his body would often give out the smell of barbecue. When one closely looked, not only was the tyrant of 1,000 soldiers' entire back charred black, his right hand also looked like charcoal. These charred black areas also seemed to faintly have a golden fire burning. These golden flames were the tribulation flames from a failed heavenly tribulation, and were even more serious than Su Clan's Shalu. That was why the tyrant of 1,000 soldiers needed to recline on an ice chair. He needed the cold nature of this cold frost metal ice chair to temporarily suppress the golden tribulation flames. Elder Young Master Hai, the assassination failed. What should we do next? He gazed at a figure next to him. It was a white-clothed young master, who had a long sword on his waist and was as refined as jade. He seemed to be an immortal who had walked out from an ancient painting. Not only did this grand elder of the Moonsaber sect have an unfairly tyrannical strength, he was also the brains of the Moonsaber sect. Be at ease, sect leader. Young Master Hai had a plan in advance, and said, it doesn't matter if the assassination failed. I already prepared for both eventualities. We just need to follow the plan, and your injuries from the heavenly tribulation will definitely be healed. Young Master Hai smiled slightly, as if everything in the world was in the palm of his hands. The tyrant of 1,000 soldiers laughed along with him, and next to his ice chair, there was a 7-colored immortal fruit that emanated a soft radiance. Hope filled the eyes of the tyrant of 1,000 soldiers. Young Master Hai turned away, and his eyes seemed to have a strange trace of smiling intent appear in them. 1. Hai means see. 2. Congratulations, you are now a witness to a murder. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 126, The Little Miss doesn't have much longer. Chapter 126, The Little Miss doesn't have much longer. Then sect leader, I'll go and make the arrangements. After enacting the second plan, Moonsaber sect will need to lie low for a while until the thing blows over. After all, the Sky River Sioux clan isn't something we can use forcibly go against. We'll have to temporarily abandon the several centuries of legacy of our Moonsaber sect. Young Master Hai said softly. Several centuries of legacy is but a dead thing. What does it matter if we abandon it temporarily? The tyrant of 1,000 soldiers laughed. Also, once this matter blows over, we can make a comeback. Now, all the matters in the Moonsaber sect will be left to you, Elder, to manage. The sect's legacy was but a dead thing. How could it compare to the importance of his heavenly tribulation injuries? Young Master Hai slightly nodded, and left the Moonsaber sect main hall. He withdrew that strange smiling intent in his eyes. All the sect disciples could see was the very image of a gentleman as refined as jade. From far off, a female cultivator raced towards young Master Hai. Both her cheeks were blushing as she came to a stop beside him. Elder Hai, all the Moonsaber sect disciples have already finished their preparations. Appropriate preparations have already been made for everything that can be brought away from the sect. Things that can't be brought away have already all been hidden in the hidden storage deep within the sect. Very good. Elder Yao Yangwan, pass down the order. All Moonsaber sect disciples are to gather in 1 hour. We need to complete the migration today and head to Blue Origin Valley to stay there temporarily. Young Master Hai caressed the long sword on his waist, saying in a soft voice. Yes, I'll arrange it. Yao Yang nodded slightly. She reluctantly left to arrange the Moonsaber sect disciples' gathering. Young Master Hai stood at a high spot and overlooked the busy Moonsaber sect disciples. That strange smiling intent surfaced in his eyes again. At this time, a clump of smoke appeared in his sleeve. That clump of smoke let out a weird laugh. Jijia, Elder Hai, you really are popular with the ladies. I think that Elder Yao has had affections for you for quite a long time. As long as you say something, even if it's to pluck her to supplement yourself too, she'll probably be willing. She may even take the initiative to run into your embrace. Does Devil Monakanji feel I have the will to do this kind of thing? Young Master Hai smiled slightly. Jijia. The clump of black smoke used a volume that only young Master Hai could hear to laugh eerily. Devil Monarch, I need your help now. Young Master Hai said softly. Your true body has already reached the Jiangnan area, right? Could you please help me capture that Sioux clan's Shalu? Leave it to me. Isn't it a matter as simple as flipping my hand? The black smoke in his sleeve laughed. Then I'll have to make a request to Devil Monarch. Young Master Hai said. It's all for our mutual benefit. the smoke in the sleeve began to quieten down. Young Master High hand stretched towards the sky and lightly grabbed at it. The posture was as if he was about to become an immortal and ascend to heaven. Such a posture bewitched several of the female disciples of the Moon Saber sect. Suddenly, a high mountains and flowing waters 3 melody began to play. Even though it was a BGM, it actually quite suited the posture of young Master High. Young Master High calmly withdrew his hand, and from his white robes, and took out an iPhone of the same model of the Lord of 1,000 Soldiers, and lightly swiped. A cold and emotionless female voice sounded. Elder High, I found Su Clan's Chi. Good, use some methods to stall him. The longer the better. Young Master High's voice was gentle. Yes, Elder. Even if I have to put my life on the line, I'll complete my mission. The female voice was cold as usual, but it was resolute as she spoke. No, I want you to retreat. Compared to the mission, you are more important to me. You must come back alive. Young Master High's voice was soft. Yes, Elder High. The female's cold voice trembled as it hung up. He. Young Master High kept his phone. Everything was ready. Now all that needed to be done was reel in the net. Time flew by. It was already 1:30 in the afternoon. Song Shuhang frowned. Senior North River had said Chi would reach in 10 minutes. Why hadn't he reached yet? In comparison, Arshalu had a satisfied expression. She would rather Chi not appear. After resting on the sofa for half an hour, her injuries had been suppressed, and her small face was no longer white, but rosy. That's right, Shuhang, you said before that you could find out the assassin's identity. Arshalu looked at Song Shuhang expectantly. I have some leads, and should be able to find out his identity. But I still have some things on. We'll act when it's evening? Song Shuhang replied. Chi still hadn't come, and he couldn't wait any longer. He had to go swipe his card at the driving center at 2, then go send Ju Yaya to the station. He opened the 9 Provinces #1 group and sent a message to Loose Cultivator North River. But Loose Cultivator North River didn't reply him. What is it? Su Clan's Arshalu stood up and said, since Chi still isn't here, why not we go settle your things first? You can use the 9 Provinces #1 group to contact Chi anyways. No way, you just wait here for Senior Chi. I can settle my matters myself. Song Shuhang rejected righteously. What kind of joke was this? If Arshalu went with him to send Ju Yaya off, what kind of changes would the script about his life have? 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Song Shuhang had a bitter expression as he swiped his card at the driving center. Then he turned his head to look behind him. 10 meters away, Arshalu's gaze intersected with him. She coldly snorted, then turned her head away. Song Shuhang smiled bitterly. There was nothing he could do. Her legs belonged to her, and if she wanted to come, Song Shuhang couldn't stop her. 2:17. Song Shuhang returned to the hospital again, to send Ju Yaya to the station. When one looked back, there was Arshalu following 10 meters behind. Their gazes intersected again, and with another cold snort, she turned away again. What was that supposed to mean? Another thing that exceeded his expectations was that Ju Yaya didn't ask much. She just let him carry 2 bags, then walked together with him to the train. Ju Yaya could take the train to the motorcar station. Then, she'll change to the 3 o'clock motorcar to go home. Ju Yaya finally lowered her voice and asked on the road, is the miss behind your girlfriend? No. She's a junior of a friend of mine. I only just found out today. Song Shuhang lowered his voice. Oh. Ju Yaya nodded, then was silent again. When Song Shuhang sent her onto the train, she lightly patted his shoulder. I won't ask you so much about why you carried her away from the hospital. But the little miss doesn't have much longer. If you have the time, go and have some fun with her. Don't let her have any regrets. Anyways, that's something you're good at. Eh? Song Shuhang didn't know how to reply. I think she's just playing at being difficult with you. Give in to the little miss, as she's still young and not very sensible yet. Zhu Yaya said sincerely. She finally waved and got on the train. Still young? Not very sensible? Song Shuhang looked at Ashalu. All right, perhaps Ashalu was petite and looked a bit young. But Song Shuhang was sure that she was probably older than him. Still, Zhu Yaya was right. Ashalu perhaps no longer had much time left. Hiddenly sighing, Song Shuhang bought 2 ice creams from next to the train station. Then he went to Ashalu and gave one to her. Can you eat it? It won't affect your injuries, right? Song Shuhang asked. Ashalu silently accepted it and lightly licked it. Let's make a trip to the driving center from just now. I need to participate in a driving license subject 1 theory test. Then, we'll investigate that assassin's identity. Song Shuhang said. Millimeter, Ashalu nodded, quietly following behind Song Shuhang. 1. Yao Yang means beautiful face in Chinese. 2. Utsaibu can be translated as plucking to nurture. The idea was that a person could greatly increase their cultivation by plundering the vital energies of their partner during sex. A male doing this to his female partner, as was usually the case, was said to be a plucking yin to nurture yang. It added a connotation of rape to dual cultivation, since it was victimizing and especially since young girls were seen as prime targets to plunder. From an article on dual cultivation, https://immortalmountain.wordpress.com/2017/06/07/dual-cultivation-human-cauldrons. 3. https://www.youtube.com/watch?v=signicdub_q_sy. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 127, Put Down the Su Clan Descendant. Chapter 127, Put Down the Su Clan Descendant. 4 p.m. When the driving center's theory lesson ended, Song Shuhang and Tubo went to sign up for the driving license subject 1 theory test. To him and Tubo, the test had 0 difficulties. Before 5 minutes had even passed, they had already completed the test. Then, the 2 of them retrieved the theory test results from the examiner, and left the testing area. Shuhang, I've already found a driving instructor. After we go pay the fees for cancellation of driving lessons at the driving center, we'll wait afterwards for him to notify that we can start to learn driving. In at most half a month, we can take the driving license subject 2 test. Tubo laughed quietly. The driving instructor he had found was the one who was the most efficient, and could arrange the driving license subject 2 test the fastest. Sure. Tell me when it's time to pay the fees. Song Shuhang then said, That's right, Tubo, I have to go out at night for something. Don't wait for me for dinner. I see. Tubo replied. The 2 of them waved goodbye at the driving center. When Song Shuhang left the driving center, the Ashalu who had been waiting outside for him all this time came to greet him. Where should we go next? What is the lead you said that time? She asked curiously. Song Shuhang patted the iron sword that was hanging slanted at his waist. The lead is this flying sword of Great Master Tongxian. Because of the concealing formation, Ashalu couldn't see the flying sword. She remembered that Song Shuhang had relied on this flying sword to chop off the assassin's head. This flying sword was a lead? Wait. Hadn't this flying sword been brought by that assassin at first? This flying sword had been left behind by Great Master Tongxian after a flying book delivery. Later on, Senior Medicine Master asked me to send it back to Grandmaster Tongxian by delivery service. Song Shuhang explained. However, yesterday the delivery man Little Jiang called me to say he had been knocked out by someone and had the delivery stolen. This matter was truly very coincidental. No one would have expected that the assassin would bring the iron sword to assassinate Ashalu. In the end he had been counter-killed by Song Shuhang with the flying sword. Ashalu asked, The flying sword was robbed by the assassin? Song Shuhang shook his head. No. The one who robbed the delivery wasn't the assassin. According to Little Jiang on the phone, the robber has already been caught, and is with him as of now. I think that the robber and assassin are very likely companions. So, we can go and look for the robber now. Perhaps we can obtain the information we want from him. As long as we can ascertain his identity, everything will be revealed. Song Shuhang suspected that the immortal farming sect matter was related to the power behind the assassin. It was obvious that they wanted to create conflict between the immortal farming sect and Su clan's Qi, and somehow gain benefits through that. Then we'll go over to Little Jiang now? Usher Lu's eyes shined. I'll give a call first, and ask Little Jiang where he is. Song Shuhang opened his phone, and called Little Jiang's number. Very quickly, Sima Jiang answered. Without waiting for Song Shuhang to say something, Sima Jiang quickly said, Song Shuhang, you wanted to ask for news about the delivery, right? Don't worry, we've already gotten from the robber a description of his accomplice and his location. I'll definitely get the delivery back tonight. Song Shuhang looked at the flying sword on his waist, and laughed. Ha ha, there's no need to look for that delivery anymore. Because of some coincidences, the delivery item has already come back into my hands. I'll tell you the details next time. I need you to do me a favor now, Little Jiang. I want to meet the robber and ask him some questions. Sima Jiang froze, but he immediately replied. No problem. I'm now at the Jiangnan Delivery Service headquarters. Where are you now? Why not I drive to you immediately to pick you up? That works too. Then pick me up at the Jiangnan University City East Gate to pick me up. Song Shuhang responded. I'll be there soon. Sima Jiang replied. After hanging up the phone, Song Shuhang said, let's go. We'll go to the school's east gate to wait for Little Jiang. Millimeter Su clan's Shalu made a sound of agreement. The two went along the river of people in the school grounds towards the school's east gate. Ushalu, why isn't Qi here yet? Song Shuhang asked. After originally saying that he'll reach in 10 minutes, hadn't several hours passed already? Who knows? Ushalu asked. I'll ask in the group. Song Shuhang opened the 9 Provinces #1 group, and sent a message there. Great pressure of Mount Books, Senior Qi, you still haven't reached yet? Loose Cultivator North River replied, I don't have any reply from Qi on my side either. Maintain contact, when I have news from Qi I'll immediately contact you. Alright, maintain contact. I'll be going on a trip to the Jiangnan Delivery Service headquarters later. If Senior Qi replies, then tell him to go directly to the headquarters to meet up. Song Shuhang replied. Loose Cultivator North River, alright, take care of your safety. Ushalu sighed. Forget it. Let me ask. Lend me your phone, Shuhang, I'll give Qi a call to ask him where he is. That can't be better. Song Shuhang turned, and gave her his phone. Ushalu lowered her head to input the number. After a moment, she frowned. Qi's phone ran out of battery? The phone is off. Then we can only wait for him to contact us himself. Who? What's that? Song Shuhang pointed at the distance, and asked suspiciously. In the direction he pointed, there could be seen not far off in the sky, a ball made of black smoke flying quickly through the sky. And behind this ball was a 5-meter Pekingese dog, one, wagging its tongue as it chased, unwilling to stop. A ball and a dog were chasing each other around in midair. But if of the students below, not one could see this ball and this dog, as if they didn't exist. A demonic beast? Ushalu asked. Demonic beasts had special bodies, and ordinary people couldn't see them. While talking, the ball suddenly changed course, and shot towards Song Shuhang and Ushalu. One of Song Shuhang's hands went onto the flying sword, and the other grabbed a Dispel Evil talisman in his pocket, ready to activate it any moment. When the ball of black smoke neared, it suddenly expanded, and trapped Song Shuhang and Ushalu inside. A cold voice resounded from the smoke, Jejie, Su clan's descendant, I found you. Who is it? Song Shuhang shouted. When his voice had just finished sounding out, he could only feel a giant hand grab his entire body. He felt as if he was riding the clouds and flying on the mist as he floated up. And the Su Clan's Shalu behind him was pushed away by an invisible force. Jijia, my name is Devil Monarch Anji. The ball of smoke let out a weird laugh. Su Clan descendant, would you go on a trip with me? Relax, I don't want your life. The assassin's companion? Song Shuhang asked. Also, I'm not the Su Clan's descendant. Devil Monarch Anji, you probably caught the wrong person? Devil Monarch Anji didn't reply to Song Shuhang, because that giant Pekingese dog let out an enraged roar, and quickly neared, and bit at the smoke. Screw this dog. Devil Monarch Anji grabbed tightly onto Song Shuhang, soaring quickly into the sky. Woof woof. The giant Pekingese dog continued in hot pursuit, not giving up. Just as Devil Monarch Anji grabbed the Su Clan's descendant who was surnamed Song, a figure raced out from a corner of the school grounds, chasing after the ball. Put down the Su Clan descendant. Bastard! She's our target. This was the adorably foolish uncle, and his hands were tied up in bandages. The ball that was Devil Monarch Anji, a dog, and an uncle were chasing each other. They quickly disappeared. The main character of this act, Su Clan's Shalu, was rubbing her stomach in pain after getting up. Speaking of which, she was the real Su Clan descendant, right? What exactly were these people playing at, catching Song Shuhang instead? 1. Here's the Google image search of it. I suggest you look at it, because the imagery is part of why the scene is so ridiculous. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 128, Where is the Moonsaber Sect? Chapter 128, Where is the Moonsaber Sect? Su Clan's Shalu body was heavily wounded, and simply couldn't chase after that ball, a dog and an uncle. She grit her teeth, and used Song Shuhang's phone to call Archie. Pick up the phone now, Archie. In the sky, the ball that Devil Monarch Anji had transformed into was chased relentlessly by the Pekingese dog. This demon dog had an unknown origin, and had great power. Devil Monarch Anji felt very gloomy. He himself didn't agitate that dog. When the Pekingese dog appeared, it had suddenly charged at him to attack him. When Devil Monarch Anji had tangled with it before, they hadn't been able to determine who was superior between the two. He calculated that even if he went all out, it would take a massive battle of several days to have confidence in disposing of this demon dog. Also, he didn't know if this dog had any suppression techniques. He was occupied with important things now. Where did he have any spare effort to get entangled with some demon mutt? I can't afford to provoke you, but does that mean I can't hide from you? Thus, Devil Monarch Anji sped up, hoping to increase the distance between him and the demon dog. Song Shuhang was grasped by that invisible hand. While riding on the clouds and flying on the wind, Song Shuhang felt as if his internal organs were being squeezed out. What an unexpected calamity! How unfortunate! Behind, the adorably foolish uncle was giving his all to give chase. He had previously been hiding in a secret place, continuing to tail Su Clan's Shalu. He had been thinking to wait for backup from the immortal farming sect, and try to catch Su Clan's Shalu alive again. He didn't expect a Devil Monarch Anji to suddenly descend from the sky and use smoke to envelop Shalu and Song Shuhang. Then he grabbed a figure and flew away. Indistinctly, the immortal farming sect uncle heard a Su Clan descendant, and would you go on a trip with me? Su Clan's Shalu was snatched away? How dare you? Without Su Clan's Shalu, how could their immortal farming sect deal with Su Clan's chi? And thus, without thinking, the immortal farming sect quickly shot towards the ball of black smoke and the Pekingese demon dog. The uncle had a very one-track mind. He didn't even spare a glance at the person on the ground, and chased after Devil Monarch Anji. While chasing, he even used 1,000-mile sound transmission talisman. He contacted the helpers from the immortal farming sect, and let the helpers arrange an ambush in front. Ambush that ball of black smoke! We must obtain Su Clan's Shiliu. The uncle grit his teeth. They had to succeed this time. Failure was not accepted. They needed to obtain Su Clan's Shiliu. At this time, at a remote region not far from Jiangnan City, the air was filled with ghost qi, and the ghastly ghost qi had formed a temporarily sealed-off space. In that sealed space, Su Clan's qi stood with his hands clasped behind his back. The magical saber on his body magically produced a dense sea of sabers, akin to the Milky Way. And next to him was a dense and uncountable number of vengeful ghosts with incomplete bodies. They reached the thousands upon thousands, and all had been slain under Archie's saber. Myriad ghosts devours grand formation, that's quite the ambitious plan, Archie said in a low voice. This was a grand formation based on the idea that when there were enough ants, even an elephant could be bitten to death. It had illustrious fame in the cultivation world, and had stalled him for a total of 3 hours. The opponent had come with preparations, in order to stall him. Their target was Shiliu? Thinking this, his rage soared. Before Archie was a white-clothed female who was the one who had set up the Myriad Ghosts Devours formation. Her body was wrapped up tightly in bandages, and seemed like a mummy from ancient Egypt. Only a pair dark of red eyes could be seen. Also, her body constantly gave off the smell of a rotting corpse. This was an innate constitution she was born with, and she could innately attract ghosts to come and store them within her body. In ancient times, these were the kinds of seedlings evil sects who cultivated the path of ghosts liked the most. With this constitution, it wasn't necessary to tiringly search for various types of vengeful ghosts. The ghosts themselves would take the initiative to come to them. A ghost's cultivator's strength could thus soar to the heavens. Because of such a constitution, this female didn't need the help of a magical treasure such as the Myriad Ghosts banner. Just relying on her body, she could release over 10,000 ghosts, and form the Myriad Ghosts Devours Grand Formation. What a pity! For an existence like you, this Myriad Ghosts Devours Grand Formation can only stall you a bit. The female's voice didn't seem to have a single fluctuation of emotion. HMPH Su Clan's Qi coldly harumphed, and with a horizontal sweep of his magical saber Qi swept out. An invisible barrier in the air seemed to be shattered by this saber Qi. Without the support of the 10,000 ghosts, the Myriad Ghosts Devours Grand Formation finally broke apart. The cold ghost Qi in the air dissipated. The remains of the vengeful ghosts that filled the ground turned into particles and dissipated into the heavens and the earth. That female groaned. She had used her body instead of a Myriad Ghosts banner to activate the Grand Formation. Now that the formation had been broken, she naturally suffered a backlash. When the formation was broken, Su Clan's Qi disappeared from his original position and appeared behind the female. The saber in his hand was pressed against the back of her head. Archie didn't want to kill her. He wanted to get information from her. And that female perhaps knew she had no chance of escape, and thus showed no intent to run away. Also, without waiting for Su Clan's Qi's questioning, she calmly said, "Elder told me to tell you that if you want to find Shiliu, go to the Moonsaber sect. My mission is to stall you. Then, while I stall you, Shiliu would be taken away by the Elder's men." Su Clan's Qi was enraged. What the heck was this Moonsaber sect? Why did he have to search for it? Such a small sect, he had simply never heard of it before. Where is the Moonsaber sect? That mummy female shook her head. I don't know. I've never been to the Moonsaber sect before. My mission is completed. It's up to you if you want to kill me or dismember me. Your mother. You're mentally retarded. Archie unhesitatingly chopped the saber onto her head, and fresh blood spurted out. The female fell limply onto the ground, her life force extinguished. They didn't even know where to go, and yet they still asked him to go to some Moonsaber sect. If this wasn't being mentally retarded, what was? But the enemy had snatched away Su Clan's Shiliu. Archie angrily stamped his foot onto the ground, forming a small crater. At this moment, a music pleasant to the ears began to play. No, this wasn't a system sound effect from defeating a monster and leveling up. It's just a hand phone ringing. Archie took out his phone and discovered it was an unknown number calling. Was it those Moonsaber sect bastards? He received the call. However, the voice that sounded through the phone was Ushulio's instead. Hey? Archie, you finally answered the call. At that moment, Archie's gloomy expression disappeared. The clouds that seemed to be hanging over him cleared up. Ushulio? You're all right? I was being stalled by someone. Where are you now? Did you get attacked? Jiangnan University City, the school's east gate. I did get attacked. Su Clan's Ushulio paused. Then, they caught the wrong person, Shu Hang instead. Anyways, you'd better come here first. The people from the Moonsaber sect really were mentally retarded? I'll reach immediately. This time I'll definitely make it with 5 minutes. Su Clan's Archie grit his teeth. The magical saber transformed into a streak of light, pulling Archie into the sky. It was as fast as if it was lightning. When 5 minutes hadn't passed yet, Su Clan's Archie had already reached Jiangnan University City's east gate. He retrieved the streak of light, and dispelled the concealing spell cast on him. Descending in a corner with nobody there, he quickly rushed to Ushulio's side. Ushulio. Archie gave Ushulio a forceful hug. Only after checking her from head to toe did he hiddenly give a sigh of relief. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 129, The Attacking Weaklings. Chapter 129, The Attacking Weaklings. Su Clan's Archie said, "What happened? Tell me all the details." Ushulio started from how she had suffered an attack from the Immortal Farming Sect uncle at the hospital, to how Song Shuhang had stepped out to help. Then, there was the assassination attack, and finally how she and Song Shuhang had been about to go to the Jiangnan Delivery Service headquarters to search for leads on the assassin. Then, that strange ball of smoke had kidnapped Song Shuhang. Oh right, there was also that Pekingese dog which chased after the ball. After finishing, Ushulio asked, "Archie, did you really snatch the treasure of the Immortal Farming Sect, and injure their people?" "I wouldn't do this kind of thing." Archie shook his head. "But, a few days ago I indeed did go to the Immortal Farming Sect." Saying this, he frowned. "At that time, I had met a friend I got along with very well. When he found out I was searching for medicines that could cure heavenly tribulation injuries, he recommended me the 7 Shine Wonder Fruit from the Immortal Farming Sect. The Immortal Farming Sect is a small sect that specializes in growing various types of spiritual plants. In the cultivation world, they can be considered to have a bit of fame. That friend went with me to the Immortal Farming Sect, and inquired about whether they would part with the 7 Shine Wonder Fruit. However, we were rejected by the Immortal Farming Sect. The 7 Shine Wonder Fruit was their precious treasure, and they weren't willing to sell it. I thus got rid of this notion, and continued searching for other medicines. It now seemed like, since the time he and his friend went towards the Immortal Farming Sect, they were locked onto by this Moonsaber sect. And after they had snatched away the 7 Shine Wonder Fruit, they pushed the blame to him. They were trying to incite conflict between the Immortal Farming Sect and him, and get some benefits from the side. As long as you don't court death you won't die. Why were there always some people who didn't understand that? Archie, what should we do now? Song Shuhang has been snatched away. Ushulio said, and it was also her fault he had been snatched away. Do you know where they brought him? Archie asked. Ushulio shook her head. She had seen the direction the ball of smoke had fled in, but the other side had kept changing directions. It had also cut off its aura to avoid being tracked. After so long had passed, there was no way to chase even if they wanted to. She was slightly worried about Song Shuhang's safety. If the enemy suddenly realized halfway that the one he had caught wasn't the Tsu clan descendant, he may just end up directly killing Song Shuhang. The longer the time that passed, the more danger he was in. Don't be impatient, we still have a lead. Tsu clan's Archie considered for a moment, then explained. The companion of the assassin that Song Shuhang mentioned is a lead. We'll go and meet him now. As he was speaking, the phone in Usher Liu's hand rang. She swiped it open, and coincidentally, it was the delivery man Little Jiang. Usher Liu accepted the call. Hey, student Xu Hang, I've already reached the Jiangnan University City East Gate. Where are you? Sima Jiang's voice sounded from the phone. Usher Liu considered her surroundings, and quickly discovered a 7-seater delivery car not far from the East Gate. Mr. Jiang, I see you, I'll be going over now. Sima Jiang froze when he heard a female voice. Suspiciously, he asked. You are? I'm Song Xu Hang's friend. The one who needs to see the robber is me. Usher Liu replied. At the same time, she approached the delivery car with Su Clan's Chi. Where's student Song Xu Hang? Sima Jiang felt suspicious when he saw Chi and Usher Liu, but no sign of Song Xu Hang. At this time, Chi opened his mouth and said gently. He has something urgent on, so he left first. He won't be accompanying us to see the robber. Relax, you just need to bring us to see the robber. Chi's voice seemed to have some strange quality in it that seemed to make people relax. When Sima Jiang heard him, he nodded. He actually no longer suspected him, and started up the car to drive to the delivery service headquarters. The robber was being closely guarded, and he was boredly sitting in the underground room. He had sunk into a stupor. Had Sima Jiang's men and his senior apprentice brother clashed yet, and what was the conclusion? Did his senior apprentice brother suffer, or were Sima Jiang's men annihilated? Actually, would the Moon Saber sect send people to save him? While in a stupor, someone opened the door to the underground room. Sima Jiang brought in a man and a girl into the room. The one who robbed me that time was this fellow. Sima Jiang introduced. Thank you. I'll take it from here. Su Clan's Chi's voice was still gentle. It continued to bring a safe feeling to people as usual. Sima Jiang silently nodded his head and left his secret room, closing his door on his way out. When he left, Su Clan's Chi raised his finger, and the magical saber rose into the air. There were lines on the saber that began to emit light. In that instant, an isolating formation that prevented spying from outsiders as well as cut-off sound was erected. When the robber saw this, he already knew that things weren't so good. Say it. Your name, origin, and what are you doing here? Su Clan's Chi said in a low voice. Even if he hadn't done anything, his body still had a terrifying aura suppressing the robber, pressuring him to the point he had problems breathing. I'm called Zhao Bulu I, an outer sect disciples of the Moon Saber sect. Zhao Bulu didn't even have the thought of resisting. He basically said all the details he knew completely. I just received orders from the higher-up several days ago to keep watch on the Su clan descendants' position. I'm just an outer sect disciple. I'll do whatever the higher-ups tell me to do. That's all I know. He was a member of the Moon Saber sect as expected. And he had been monitoring Su clan's Usher Liu position from a few days ago, and it was even before he himself had went to the Immortal Farming sect. If so, then the friend who had brought him to the Immortal Farming sect deserved some contemplation. Su clan's Chi would admit himself that he was a boorish person. He wasn't good at hidden plots, and didn't have a way with words. From the time he had begun his journey of the Tao, he had encountered many conspiracies. What he relied on was his body as well as this magical saber in his hands. Final question. Where is the Moon Saber sect? Su clan's Chi asked in a low voice. In China, an area with high mountains and untouched forests. The specific location is XXXX. Zhao Bulu said everything he knew in great detail. How sensible. Su clan's Chi turned to Usher Liu. Let's go to the Moon Saber sect. Usher Liu silently nodded. The two left. Zhao Bulu's sweat was floating endlessly, and his breath was ragged. Facing Su clan's Chi had made him feel as if he could die at any moment. At the exit of the underground room, Sima Jiang was waiting for Chi and Usher Liu. Yes, we've already gotten the answers we wanted. Thank you, Mr. Sima. Usher Liu smiled. A lot of thanks need to be given to you for this matter. When this matter is over, I'll prepare a thank you gift. It's all right, Sima Jiang quickly said. We still have some things to attend to. We'll make a move first. You can continue on. Goodbye. Su Clanzar waved. Sima Jiang took a while before he nodded. He followed their departure with his eyes. When Su Clanzar had left far away, Sima Jiang scratched his head suddenly. Was I possessed today? He felt he had been too obedient to that man just now. Not even sons listened to their fathers as much as he did. On the other side, Devil Monarch Anji carried Song Shuhang and flew a distance, before stopping. Before him appeared a group of immortal farming sect cultivators with scorching gazes. Behind him was a Pekingese dog that relentlessly pursued him. Hand over Su Clanzar Liu. That group of immortal farming sect cultivators said viciously. These immortal farming sect disciples didn't specialize in fighting, were yet so aggressive today. Jijia, a bunch of weaklings. You want to block me? Devil Monarch Anji had long since had a belly full of fire because of the demon dog behind him. Now, even these immortal farming sect cultivators who only had a power level of 5-2, were underestimating him as well. 1. His name means lawless in Chinese. Don't ask me what his parents was thinking when naming him. 2. This is a meme about how when Raditz came to Earth in Dragon Ball, he looked down on a farmer because he only had a power level of 5, which is low considering Dragon Ball's power levels. TLDR, the immortal farming sect members are weak. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 130, There are many things wrong with this first experience of the blue sky. Chapter 130, There are many things wrong with this first experience of the blue sky. The ambushing immortal farming sect backup had a strength of 17 men. They all had great momentum, and were full of fighting spirit. What was a pity was that was the only thing good about them. Their strength was too weak, and among the backup of 17 men, 2 were rank 3 cultivators, while the rest were all rank 2. And also, the immortal farming sect had fame in the nearby cultivation world for being weak in combat power. The amount of power these 17 could unleash were extremely suspect. At this time, the figure of the immortal farming sect uncle rushed in from behind. He was wearing a pair of blue shoes, which was actually a magical treasure. Only with this magical treasure could he chase tightly behind Devil Monarch Anji, and actually be slightly faster than the giant Pekingese demon dog. Of course, there was also the reason that the Pekingese demon dog wasn't going all out to catch up. For a demon of such rank, its intelligence wasn't inferior to humans. It saw that there was conflict between the immortal farming sect uncle and Devil Monarch Anji, and it was happy to reap benefits from the side, and let the uncle be the vanguard. Before immortal farming sect uncle even reached, his voice reached. Go! It's the fellow in the black smoke that kidnapped Su Clanzar Liu. Beat him up! Then, the uncle bellowed in rage, and leapt into the air. His body spun and transformed into the horn of a poison dragon, drilling towards Devil Monarch Anji. His first move was already a big move. All the 17 immortal farming sect members followed suit with their own attacks, executing various methods of their own. Because only rank 4 cultivators could remotely control swords, apart from 3 who used bows and arrows, the rest of the immortal farming sect cultivators could only leap high into the air, side by side. With the addition of the uncle there were 18 immortal farming sect cultivators. All jumped to a height of 5 floors, vigorously attacking. They raised their hands and fists, and true chi fluctuated. There were various light effects, and this was a sight even more magnificent than modern-day wuxia shows. Then, they collectively gave Devil Monarch Anji 0 points of damage. The airborne Devil Monarch just laughed coldly. Ding ding ding, the attacks of the immortal farming sect cultivators could only futilely produce sparks on that circular defense. Then, under the effect of gravity, these cultivators all fell to the ground. Devil Monarch Anji had never even put these weaklings in his sights. He gazes swept towards the distance, where that giant Pekingese dog was wagging its tongue, quickly closing the distance. Within another 10 breaths, that giant Pekingese would be able to bite him again. I need to get rid of these weaklings within 5 breaths. Devil Monarch Anji said hiddenly in his heart. Ha! He shouted, and that circular defense suddenly exploded, transforming into over 100 black-colored short swords. Go! Devil Monarch Anji roared in a low voice, and those 100 over black-colored short swords seemed to be as lively as piranhas, scattering to separately rush at the immortal farming sect cultivators. Swish 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 swish. A succession of sounds of sharp swords cutting open flesh. Fresh blood spurted and there were continuous wails. 1 breath later. Apart from the uncle and the other 2 rank 3 immortal farming sect cultivators, all the rest of the immortal farming sect members were lying sprawled on the ground, each person having over 10 sword wounds on their body. As soon as they had met, more than half of them were defeated. It could only be said, as expected of the immortal farming sect. Rank 4 and above cultivators are difficult to deal with as expected. The immortal farming sect uncle grit his teeth. Remote sword techniques and rank for cultivation. Rank for cultivators had been called pseudo-core cultivators in ancient times, and were just 1 step away from forming a gold core and becoming a rank 5 gold core spirit emperor. They had so many people, and yet still weren't a match for the enemy. Damn it, their immortal farming sect's strongest backup still wasn't here yet. That person still needed time before he could rush here. They had to hold on, at least until apprentice brother Justmight who could rush here. As he was thinking this, the uncle's eyes widened at the black smoke. Who? Because the defensive black smoke had transformed into a school of fish-like swords, the black smoke had parted and revealed Devil Monarch Anji's true appearance. He was a crimson-armored muscular fellow with short hair. His features were covered with black smoke, making it difficult for people to see how he looked like. But that wasn't the important part. What was important was the one behind Devil Monarch Anji. Behind Devil Monarch Anji was a giant tail, which had transformed into a giant hand to grasp someone. Logically speaking, the one being grasped should be the little Miss Su Clan's Usher Liu. But the one the uncle was currently staring at was a man with a young fair face. Scammer! The uncle pointed at Song Shuhang. Bastard, why is it you, where's Su Clan's Usher Liu? Huh? Devil Monarch Anji also froze, turning his head to look at the human-shaped thing grasped in its tail. Ha ha, blurg, Song Shuhang made a tragic laugh. Once upon a time, there was a Song Shuhang who had dreamed of soaring through the blue sky. In his fantasies, he was either flying a plane, soaring through the sky, sweeping unhindered through the heavens and the earth. Or he had mastered using swords to achieve flight. He would step on sword light to soar through the air, haughtily laughing at the 9 provinces and 4 seas. What kind of free and unrestrained picture would that paint? But he had never expected that his first time flying through the sky would be him riding through the clouds and on the mist while kidnapped. There are many things wrong with this first experience of the blue sky. It had in but a short time shattered his fantasies of how good boys should charge towards the sky. Fantasies were so plentiful. Alas, reality was yet so cruel. You're not Su Clan's Usher Liu? Devil Monarch Anji asked suspiciously. Ha ha. Song Shuhang used a taunting manner to laugh tragically, to show his complicated feelings. If you're not Usher Liu, why did you run out and shout nonsense when I called out Su Clan's descendant? Devil Monarch Anji raged. Ha ha, after a moment of silence, Song Shuhang decided to use a taunting manner to laugh tragically again. Your granddaddy, I just shouted a who is it at that time, all right? You kidnapped me, thinking I was Su Clan's Usher Liu just based on this? There's something wrong with the target. Retreat! The immortal farming sect's adorably foolish uncle made a resolute decision and shouted out. As for this damnable scammer? What did he have to do with it whether he lived or died? He only cared about Su Clan's Usher Liu. Devil Monarch Anji froze for about 2 breaths. GGG, interesting, very interesting. Suddenly, Devil Monarch Anji started to laugh loudly. No one knew what he was laughing about. What was so funny here? Hee hee. Sword. At this moment, Song Shuhang held the talisman in his pocket between his finger and thumb with great difficulty. He activated it. Before, he had been grasped too tightly by the Devil Monarch's hand. He used a lot of effort before being able to once again hold the sword talisman between his finger and thumb. Taking advantage of when the Devil Monarch was astonished, he finally found an opportunity to use the sword talisman. When the sword talisman was activated, a dignified and lofty illusory figure appeared behind Song Shuhang. It gazed at Devil Monarch Anji. Then, following Song Shuhang's will, that figure used a finger as a sword, chopping out towards Devil Monarch Anji's tail. Resplendent sword light flashed, firmly locking onto Devil Monarch Anji. To Devil Monarch Anji, nothing else seemed to exist in the world except that sword. This was a treasure talisman created by a grandmaster of the Tao of Talismans, and this sword light was a spectacular sword art. But that Tao of Talismans grandmaster didn't have a high cultivation. At the very least, when he had been creating this talisman, he hadn't formed his core and ascended to a spirit emperor yet. So, the sword created by the talisman only exhibited the power of a rank 3 cultivator. But Devil Monarch Anji didn't dare to disregard this sword light. Although it had only rank 3 strength, this was a spectacular sword art. Perhaps if he wasn't careful, he might suffer an unexpected failure here. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 131. What does one do when one meets a giant demonic beast? Chapter 131. What does one do when one meets a giant demonic beast? Facing the sword light that was chopping towards his tail, Devil Monarch Anji suddenly made a weird smile. He loosened his tail and tossed Song Shuhang away from a tall height. No one knew what the thinking or logic of devil cultivators was. Song Shuhang had originally chopped out with this sword in an attempt to force Devil Monarch Anji to throw him away, so that he could escape. But he didn't expect that, when the sword light hadn't even landed yet, Devil Monarch Anji would voluntarily toss him away. Or perhaps to the Devil Monarch, since Song Shuhang wasn't Su Clan's Liu, he had no value. Or did he have some other intention? No one knew what he was thinking. Immediately, Devil Monarch Anji clasped his hands together. The black-colored short swords that covered the sky shuttled back, forming a surging ball of swords in front of the Devil Monarch. The ball of swords met the sword light from the talismans. Boom! The black-colored ball of swords collided with that resplendent sword light. True origin energy mutually exploded, and the shock waves of Qi transformed into substance as they spread in all directions. The Song Shuhang who was falling from the sky was struck by the blast, and like a rocket, accelerated towards the ground. At this moment, Rocket Song Shuhang had only one thought: don't hit something hard. Boom boom boom. In the sky, after the flashes and shadows of swords clashing and the shock waves of Qi, Devil Monarch Anji continued to haughtily stand in mid-air, a black-colored streak of light supporting him beneath his feet. Not even the slightest bit harmed, and the airs of an expert were displayed at this moment without a doubt. Woof woof. At this moment, the far-off giant Pekingese gave 2 loud roars, and 4 wheels made out of fire appeared under its feet, looking extremely similar to Wind Flame Wheels 1. With the assistance of the Wind Flame Wheels, the speed of the giant Pekingese demon dog's running increased by not just 1 level. Like a hungry dog pouncing on food, it opened its mouth to take a bite at Devil Monarch Anji. Fudge, why does this dog keep chasing me down relentlessly? Devil Monarch Anji's airs of an expert didn't even last for 2 seconds before being broken. He hurriedly withdrew those black-colored short swords that covered the sky, reforming it into smoke again. He then began to move about in midair, cutting a sorry figure as he avoided the giant Pekingese demon dog. Thump! Song Shuhang finally fell to the ground. Fortunately, he didn't crash into rock. But even then, he still felt as if his internal organs were shattered into pieces. Acute pain continuously pounded into his mental state. As of now, he felt that he was really right in all the hard work he had spent cultivating the past few days. Thankfully, his body has been strengthened to this point, or he would have died from this fall. On the other side, the Immortal Farming Sect uncle and the other two rank 3 cultivators were quickly dealing with their companions. The Immortal Farming Sect cultivators could still be considered to be lucky. Although so many had fallen to the ground heavily injured, at least none had died. Dog, wait for this monarch. When this monarch is free, I'll butcher you for some dog meat. In the air, Devil Monarch Anji roared angrily. It looked like he had suffered a bit under the Pekingese's mouth. Then, his body shot downwards, and like an eagle catching a chick, snatched away the Immortal Farming Sect uncle. He didn't catch Song Shuhang, but instead caught the uncle. Then, the Devil Monarch fled far away. Maybe the Devil Monarch was nearsighted, and caught the wrong person again? In mid-air, the giant Pekingese spat away some black substance in its mouth. With contempt in its eyes, woof woof. Apprentice brother Just Heart. The female cultivator among the two rank 3 cultivators shouted in surprise after the uncle was snatched away. Immediately, she jumped and chased in the direction of Devil Monarch Anji. So, the adorably foolish Immortal Farming Sect uncle had the Daoist title Just Heart. The remaining rank 3 cultivator also wanted to give chase, but when seeing the floor covered with injured apprentice brothers, he could only hiddenly grit his teeth. He forcefully held back the desire to give chase, staying back to treat their injuries. The injured Farming Sect disciple all half sat up with his help. They sat cross-legged and adjusted their breathing, recovering from their wounds. Lightly sighing, this rank 3 cultivator looked at the far-off body of Song Shuhang that was lying down. After thinking it over, he still went over. Half supporting Song Shuhang, he fed him a medicinal pill that helped recover injuries. The Immortal Farming Sect specialized in growing various kinds of spiritual herbs and immortal medicines. The amount of medicinal pills the sect had wasn't little, which was why they were willing to spare a medicinal pill that healed injuries to a stranger. Also, this was the style of the Immortal Farming Sect. Their sect had the style of being simple and honest. The vast majority of the sect disciples had kind dispositions. If not for their sect's most precious treasure, the 7 Shine Wonder Fruit, being snatched, they wouldn't have been so angry. It was also thanks to how it was relatively peaceful for the past few hundred years in the cultivation world. If not, a sect full of good guys and had poor fighting strength would have had it hard to pass on its Daoist traditions. After Song Shuhang took this pill, he could clearly feel a refreshing feeling spread from his mouth into his internal organs. His originally painful internal organs became very comfortable after the refreshing feeling passed through. Several breaths later, his internal injuries were already healed. Thank you. Song Shuhang took a deep breath and climbed up from the ground. This rank 3 had a complicated gaze, and in the end sighed. No problem. After speaking, those Immortal Farming Sect had finished adjusting their breathing, and gathered. That uncle named Just Heart had been caught, and another female rank 3 cultivator chased after. The current member of the Immortal Farming Sect amongst those here who had the strongest strength and highest identity was this rank 3 cultivator beside him. There was a disciple with childhood innocence on his face who now looked bitter. Apprentice brother Just Words, what do we do next? 2 clans Ushul hadn't been caught, but instead their apprentice brother Just Heart had been caught by that monster, and even apprentice sister Just Joy had also chased after. This was really losing one's wife as well as one's soldiers, an extreme loss. Thinking about all this, the disciple with childhood innocence viciously glared at Song Shuhang. He felt that all this was caused by Song Shuhang. Next, we'll just wait for apprentice brother Just Might to come before making a decision. There's apprentice sister Just Joy following apprentice brother Just Heart. Maintain contact with her. The apprentice brother Just Might he spoke of was the rank 4 cultivator of this time small reinforcements team. He was also the strongest battle strength of the current Immortal Farming Sect. At this time, the members of the Immortal Farming Sect were all filled with distress. Suddenly, Song Shuhang raised his hand into the air and asked softly. Excuse me, can I just ask a question? HMPH, that disciple with childhood innocence coldly harumphed. Please speak, fellow Daoist. Apprentice brother Just Word spoke. I just wanted to know, if a powerful demon beast is charging towards us, what do we do? That giant Pekingese demon dog had had its fun chasing devil monarch Anji, and it made a round on its wind-fire wheels. Wagging its tongue, it changed its direction towards the direction of the Immortal Farming Sect crowd. The Immortal Farming Sect disciples blankly stared at the giant Pekingese demon dog slowly drifting towards them. No one could answer Song Shuhang's question. "Is it carnivorous?" someone said softly. "Definitely," Song Shuhang replied. "Have you ever seen a giant dog that doesn't eat meat? Should we run?" Another person asked an idiotic question. Who could run faster than this Pekingese dog? Also, it flies. Could they only leave it to fate, or hope the Pekingese dog was full? That's right, before I left the sect, apprentice brother Just Great gave me a manual to deal with various dangers. It may be useful here. That disciple with childhood innocence suddenly remembered something. He quickly reached into his clothes and pulled out a hardcover notebook. Apprentice brother Just Great was the professional in the Immortal Farming Sect in charge of rearing demonic beasts. He also traveled far and wide, and was very experienced. Perhaps he had recorded a method to deal with giant fierce beasts. The disciple with childhood innocence quickly flipped to section on demonic beasts. 1. A magical treasure belonging to Neza in mythology. If you find any errors, ads pop-up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 132, I'm surnamed Song, and this is my identity card. Chapter 132, I'm surnamed Song, and this is my identity card. Song Shuhang looked at the hardcover notebook with some doubts. This thing wasn't any wise counsel. Could it really be employed here? Found it. This paragraph, as a professional demon beast breeder, I will give you some of my personal experiences, as well as some experiences orally handed down by older generations of demon beast breeders. If hypothetically, right now you were to meet a large cat or dog race demon beast, what should you do? That disciple with childhood innocence on his face said excitedly. Apprentice brother Just Great, you're the best. This is exactly what we need. Continuing to read on. At this time, you must not panic. Maintain your calm. First, take note of the large demon beast's gaze. Is it lowering its head and staring at you, its gaze never leaving you for a moment? If so, you need to take note. I can guarantee you, this proves it's already added you to its menu. The Immortal Farming Sect disciple looked up to look at the Pekingese demon dog. Just as apprentice brother wrote on the notebook, the dog was glaring at them like it was eyeing its prey, coming closer step by step. This was obviously the lead up to adding everyone to its menu. Continue reading. Does apprentice Just Great record a method to deal with large demonic beasts? Someone else called out. The disciple with childish innocence continued to read. At this time, you must not panic. Maintain your calm. Keep in mind not to lower your head. Don't be submissive and show your vital parts either. This will make the demon beast think you are food that it can eat as and when it wants. Keep in mind not to run. Apprentice brother, you will never run faster than a demon beast. You would instead arouse its hunting instincts. Especially cat-type demon beasts, they like to toy around with fleeing prey. Even if they are full, they still like to toy with prey until the prey dies. Now, do your best to stand straight, with a stern gaze, and your face must be filled with anger. Then spread your arms and shout loudly. For example, something like "Screw your mother. If you have the guts, come eat your granddaddy," or "If you don't eat me, then you're a dog ******. Show as much of an imposing manner as possible. The childish disciple said to this point, and there was immediately an Immortal Farming Sect disciple who stepped out. He spread his arms in front of the Pekingese dog, and with a stern gaze, roared. "Screw your mother. If you have the guts, come eat your granddaddy. If you don't eat me, then you're a dog *****. A loud roar, and a powerfully imposing manner. Song Shuhang was very skeptical. Would this really work? Wouldn't it enrage the giant Pekingese demon dog? He remembered that in the 9 Provinces #1 group, a senior had mentioned while chatting that high-ranking demon beasts had intelligence not one whit inferior to humans, and could even speak human languages. However, this method that left people speechless really was effective. The airborne Pekingese demon dog really froze. It squatted in mid-air, wagging its tongue as it stared at these immortal farming sect disciples. It's effective, it's really effective. Quickly flip to the next page. What do we do next? How do we chase away this demon dog? That disciple with a stern gaze and a face full of anger asked, his confidence rising. The disciple with childhood innocence nodded, and his heart bearing great expectations, flipped to the next page. Only to see a single sentence on the next page. This way, perhaps you may be able to die with some dignity. What kind of joke was this? The disciple with childhood innocence immediately shut the notebook. Apprentice brother just great, screw your mother. How could you screw this apprentice brother of yours over? Quickly say the next step. I've already shocked this demon dog into stopping. Tell me what I need to do next. Or else we won't be able to keep it shocked for long. That disciple who had stepped out said agitatedly. What to do? What to do? The disciple with childhood innocence felt moisture in his eyes. He really wanted to cry. The Pekingese demon dog squatted in mid-air, looking at the immortal farming sect disciples shouting. It had a hint of laughing ridicule in its eyes. That's right, Song Shuhang could guarantee that he hadn't seen wrongly, and that there were vivid expressions in its eyes. Seeing this kind of expression, Song Shuhang heaved a sigh in his heart. At least this Pekingese demon dog didn't have any malicious intentions towards humans. After laughing, it shook the hair on its body, before stepping on air to make its leave. Before it left, it even gave a profound look to Song Shuhang. After the giant demon dog left, the immortal farming sect disciples all exhaled in relief. As for the disciple who had stepped out to shout at the Pekingese demon dog, he fell flat on his butt, no longer able to stay standing. The method apprentice brother just great recorded is really effective. That giant demon dog really left. That disciple didn't even know how close he was to death's door just now. He still had excellent praise for that method recorded by apprentice brother just great. The next time I meet a cat or dog-type demon beast, I no longer need to be scared. That disciple with childhood innocence hiddenly clutched at the notebook. He was considering whether to let this apprentice brother of his have a look at the last line from this notebook. Or else, what would he do if this apprentice brother recklessly scolded a demon beast the next time he met one, and ended up being eaten? After resting at the same place for a while, the immortal farming sect disciples had their wounds healed. The immortal farming sect disciples gathered into a circle. They were waiting for their pillar, that apprentice brother just mites to rush over. Song Shuhang was by his lonesome at the side, leaning on a tree. What came next was finding a way to travel to Jiangnan University City. He had been thrown away in this desolate wilderness and had to go see if there were any public roads nearby. Apart from that, it was also best to make a call to Su Clan's Liu to notify her he was safe. And there was still the matter regarding the immortal farming sect. Song Shuhang looked at the immortal farming sect disciples gathered together. He already owed them 2 favors. If they hadn't attacked Devil Monarch Anji, Song Shuhang would never have even found a chance to extricate himself. Then, that apprentice brother just words had fed him a medicinal pill for recovering injuries. Thinking to this point, he rubbed his forehead. The immortal farming sect and Su Clan's Qi still had an enmity to settle. Although there were many suspicious points about this enmity, the immortal farming sect had already seemed to identify the culprit as Qi. While thinking, the immortal farming sect disciple with childhood innocence came before Song Shuhang. With great effort, he made a ferocious expression. Are you the Su Clan descendant? His question attracted the attention of many of his companions. They too were suspicious over Song Shuhang's identity. I'm not, you should have heard the shouts from the uncle just now. I'm just an innocent victim Devil Monarch Anji accidentally caught. Song Shuhang said seriously. Do you have evidence? The disciple with childish innocence said. Evidence? Song Shuhang never thought that there would be a day where someone would actually ask him to prove that he was himself. Thinking through it, he took out his wallet. If you must have it, can this do? He took out his identity card from his wallet. Name, Song Shuhang. Gender, male. Then it was his date of birth. The Immortal Farming Sect Rank 3 Cultivator's apprentice brother Just Words lightly floated towards him, and received the identity card to check it. Millimeter, his surnamed Song. He's indeed not the Su clan descendant. Apprentice brother Just Words said seriously, then handed the identity card back to Song Shuhang. The Immortal Farming Sect disciples were at once gratified, and yet disappointed as they lowered their heads. Perhaps he follows his mother's surname? This disciple with childhood innocence seemed to be unwilling to let off Song Shuhang. Unwilling to let him off, he said, his father may be surnamed Su. Song Shuhang couldn't help but speak out, I say, could you not just randomly change another person's ancestry? Apologies. Because there were some issues with the mission, my apprentice brothers got agitated. Apprentice brother Just Word scolded the disciple with childhood innocence a bit, and let him return to his companions. Then, apprentice brother Just Words himself sat down next to Song Shuhang. 6 days ago, Su Clan's Chi and an unfamiliar cultivator came to our Immortal Farming Sect as guests. Without caring about anything else, he started to narrate. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 133, What Each Conspiracy Needs. Chapter 133, What Each Conspiracy Needs. That day, Su Clan's Chi met our sect leader. He is a rank 5 cultivator who has been famous for a very long time, and our Immortal Farming Sect naturally treated him with due respect. Chi and our sect leader interacted for a very long time, and at first both the host and guest were enjoying themselves. Then, Su Clan's Chi inquired about the 7 Shine Wonder Fruit. Because a junior of his had failed a tribulation, he was searching for medicines to help heal this junior. Through recommendations, he had come to our Immortal Farming Sect. The 7 Shine Wonder Fruit is the most precious treasure which has been passed down for generations through our Immortal Farming Sect. For some reason, it was discovered by several fellow Taoists, and it was even hailed as some divine medicine by them. Finally, the medicinal effects became more incredible the more it spread, and it was actually thought that the 7 Shine Wonder Fruit could heal heavenly tribulation injuries. What was interesting was that we ourselves didn't know that the 7 Shine Wonder Fruit has such godly effects. Saying this, apprentice brother Just Words poked fun at himself. Rumor stopped when it came to wise men. However, the world just had to run amok with fools. Especially for those who had sunk into despair, it was easy for them to believe otherwise. Song Shuhang didn't know why apprentice brother Just Words was saying all this to him. However, since it was related to senior Chi, he just silently listened. Then, Su Clan's Chi asked us whether we would part with the 7 Shine Wonder Fruit. He would use valuable treasures to make an exchange. Our sect leader rejected him, as the 7 Shine Wonder Fruit is the most valuable treasure of our sect. It also has no ability to heal heavenly tribulation injuries, and thus it had no basis for a trade. Su Clan's Chi also didn't force the issue, then left the Immortal Farming Sect with his companion. Saying to this point, Just Words paused, then frowned as he said. However, what no one expected was that night, Su Clan's Chi would barge into our Immortal Farming Sect, and continuously injure 18 of our Immortal Farming Sect's disciples. He snatched away the 7 Shine Wonder Fruit. This was the enmity between Su Clan's Chi and their Immortal Farming Sect. That was why the adorably foolish uncle tailed a Shalu, and hoped to capture her alive to force Su Clan's Chi to appear. Song Shuhang frowned upon hearing this much. He thought about that assassin who tried to assassinate Urshalu. Behind the enmity of Su Clan's Chi and the Immortal Farming Sect, there was actually someone who was intentionally trying to sow discord. Thinking about this, Song Shuhang tried to make his tone gentle. Excuse me, but can you be sure that the person who barged into the Immortal Farming Sect was indeed Su Clan's Chi? Of course we're sure. That night, our sect's strongest apprentice brother Justmight as well as 30 apprentice brothers were in charge of guarding the secret grounds of the sect. Su Clan Za Chi suddenly appeared, and with one saber attack defeated apprentice brother Justmight and heavily injured 18 disciples. My sect's disciples personally witnessed his looks, and there was also that unique saber art of his, the sky saber buries the star sea. Apprentice brother Justmight explained. The edges of Song Shuhang's mouth twitched. There were so many suspicious points, he didn't even know where to start ridiculing it. Su Clan Za Chi went to someone's place to rob them, and actually revealed his real face. Also, he took advantage of the night to do bad things, but still showed a secret art unique to him. Was he afraid people wouldn't recognize him? How stupid, or exactly how wildly arrogant would Su Clan Za Chi have to be to do this? I think you have some friendship with the Su clan descendant, which is why I'm telling you all this. I hope you won't interfere with the enmity between the immortal farming sect and Su Clan Za Chi. Apprentice brother Justword said. He wanted to advise Song Shuhang not to enter this conflict of right and wrong. Song Shuhang thought for a while, before replying. I don't know much regarding the enmity between you all and Senior Archie. So I don't have the right to say anything. However, there's something that happened not long ago that I think it's better to let you know. When that uncle from the immortal farming sect tried to capture Su Clan Za Shilu, he failed, then retreated. But not longer after the uncle left, there was suddenly an assassin who attempted to assassinate Su Clan Za Shilu. If I hadn't been there, our Shilu may be dead already. Song Shuhang stopped speaking after this, and didn't explain any further. If the other side trusted him, it would properly consider his words. If the other side didn't trust him, his explanation would only have a negative effect. Justwords frowned, and began to ponder deeply. China, the Blue Origin Valley. The Moonsaber sect had already had their migration, left their sect and made their way to the Blue Origin Valley. This Blue Origin Valley was a refuge secretly constructed by the Moonsaber sect many years ago. The valley had all kinds of preparations ready, and could be considered a second sect base for the Moonsaber sect. As there had long been preparations made, the Moonsaber sect had migrated very fast. Before 3 hours had even passed, they had already completed the migration. Under the arrangements of the various elders, the disciples used their identity and positions to choose their residences in Blue Origin Valley to settle their belongings. Then, the Moonsaber sect disciples began to prepare a giant guardian formation for the sect. The sect guardian formation was one modified by Elder Young Master Hai after research, and could for a short time allow the Moonsaber sect disciples to double their battle power. The Moonsaber sect disciples believed that with this formation, they could block even a rank 5 Spirit Emperor who had formed their gold core if one came attacking. Once everything was settled properly, Elder Young Master Hai went to the sect leader, the tyrant of 1,000 soldiers, to report the current state of affairs. Once he left the sect leader, he returned to the private residence in the Blue Origin Valley. His residence was very clean, with only a purple-colored bamboo lonely growing in a pot. Young Master Hai entered the room, and activated a defensive formation, which could temporarily block outsiders spying. Then, his right sleeve moved, and that clump of black smoke that was Devil Monarch Anji's clone came out, letting out a weird laughter of Jijia. At the same time, that purple bamboo began to tremble slightly. The mission to assassinate Urshilu failed? That purple-colored bamboo trembled and let out a very robotic voice. It failed. What a pity. Even the Blood God Saber talisman couldn't kill the Su clan descendant. These junior cultivators who come from famous clans really aren't easy to deal with. Young Master Hai put his hand on the longsword on his waist, smiling slightly. It's really troublesome. Now we won't be able to lure Su Clan Za Chi to deal with the immortal farming sect. That purple-colored bamboo was dissatisfied. Jijia, from the start, we already predicted this might happen. Devil Monarch Anji's black smoke clone laughed weirdly. Anyways, even if the immortal farming sect attacks the Moonsaber sect, we can also achieve our goal. HMPH. You two would naturally be fine. I, on the other hand, need to expend extra effort. Then I'll settle for the next best thing. The second plan: has the Su clan descendant been captured alive? If not, we won't be able to lure Su Clan's Chi over. The purple-colored bamboo continued. Young Master Hai's eyes slightly sunk. Devil Monarch Anji's true body has personally gone to catch the Su Clan descendant. I also let a cute tool stall Su Clan's Chi. Devil Monarch. You should succeeded already, right? Oh. Devil Monarch Anji's clone paused. How do I say this? Because a big dog interfered, in a haste, this Devil Monarch caught the wrong person. As you all know, to this Devil Monarch humans and monkeys are more or less similar, and all look the same. How can this Devil Monarch tell them apart? The purple-colored bamboo mocked him. Which is to say, the second plan failed as well? It's not necessarily a failure. Actually, we just need to make a move against the Su Clan descendant. Even if we didn't capture her alive, as long as he finds a lead, Su Clan's Chi will come to the Moon Saber sect to seek vengeance for his junior given his personality. If our Chi doesn't come at that time, this Devil Monarch will personally act and lure him here. Devil Monarch Anji's clone grit his teeth. You said it yourself. We didn't force you to. The purple-colored bamboo laughed coldly. Just don't get chopped in half within one saber strike by Su Clan's Chi when the time comes. HMPH. You can be at ease. This Devil Monarch naturally has his own methods. Devil Monarch Anji laughed coldly. Young Master Hai sat on the chair, and one hand supported his chin. A slight smile appeared at the corners of his mouth. Then, we'll continue to follow the second plan. Now. First lure the Immortal Farming Sect people over, and let them have a taste of the might of the Grand Formation I's painstakingly made changes to. It'll also boost the confidence of the Moon Saber Sect disciples. After all, they are about to face the powerful existence known as Su Clan's Chi. The purple-colored bamboo trembled slightly, saying, All right. I'll think of a way to lure the experts of the Immortal Farming Sect over. At that time, we must kill several important members. As for their sect leader, we'll leave him alive for a few days so he has time to go back to the Immortal Farming Sect and arrange his funeral arrangements. This will give us the chance to obtain the secrets of the Immortal Farming Sect. Young Master Hai nodded. Quickly act. We need to do this before our Chi comes. Let the Immortal Farming Sect come to the Blue Origin Valley. Relax, I'll immediately prepare. The purple-colored bamboo said. At this time, Devil Monarch Anji made a weird laugh. Jijia, that's right. Although I didn't catch Su Clan's Shalu, on the way I met the people of the Immortal Farming Sect. There seemed to be one called Just Heart. He seemed to have some importance in the Immortal Farming Sect. I thought he may have some use, so I caught him. Just Heart of the Immortal Farming Sect. If it's him, he may really have some use. Temporarily leave him alive, just in case. The purple-colored bamboo replied. All right, then we'll take action separately. I pray that everything will go smoothly. Young Master Hai rose to his feet. It'll definitely go smoothly. Devil Monarch Anji laughed ferociously. We'll definitely succeed. The purple-colored bamboo trembled slightly, then calmed down. Devil Monarch Anji's clone burrowed back into Young Master Hai's sleeves. Young Master Hai undid the defensive formation in the room, then rested for a while, before making his way to where the Tyrant of 1,000 Soldiers was again. As usual, the Tyrant of 1,000 Soldiers was sitting on the chair made of cold frost metal, staring in a daze at the 7 Shine Wonder Fruit. This was the treasure that could heal him. Unfortunately, it couldn't be orally ingested, and they still lacked the method of usage. After seeing Young Master Hai enter, the Tyrant of 1,000 Soldiers' eyes flashed. Elder Young Master Hai, has the second plan started yet? Young Master Hai nodded slightly. Yes, Sect Leader. I just contacted our spy in the Immortal Farming Sect. He's already begun to act, giving the information to the Immortal Farming Sect about how Su Clan's Chi and the 7 Shine Wonder Fruit are at the Moon Saber Sect. Next, we need to find a place to ambush the Immortal Farming Sect, and kill all their important figures. At that time, our spy will be able to inherit everything of the Immortal Farming Sect, and obtain the recipe for the usage of the 7 Shine Wonder Fruit. At that time, the heavenly tribulation flames that have been bothering sect leader for years can be healed. If so, that's good. The tyrant of 1,000 soldiers sighed. He was tormented day and night by the heavenly tribulation flames. Even if there was only a sliver of hope to heal, he wouldn't let it go. It's a pity. If the first plan was successful, we wouldn't have even needed to act ourselves. We could have borrowed a cheese power to crush the immortal farming sect, and the spy we planted into the immortal farming sect would have been able to obtain all the secrets of the immortal farming sect. The tyrant of 1,000 soldiers sighed. Man proposes, heaven disposes. Young Master Hai said, smiling. You're right, Elder. The tyrant of 1,000 soldiers propped his body up. But we should still scheme a bit more. I don't believe the heavens won't let us succeed time and time again. Young Master Hai smiled as he nodded. Leave it to the heavens for success? Ha ha. Everything is in the palm of my hands. What need is there for the heavens to allow things to succeed? At the other side, at the location of the immortal farming sect disciples. Apprentice Brother Just Might is here. A disciple said in happy surprise. In the distance, there was a man wearing blue-colored garments of the immortal farming sect, stepping on a streak of light and speedily coming here. If you find any errors, ads pop-up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 134, Why is Su Clan's Chi here? Chapter 134, Why is Su Clan's Chi here? The comer was the strongest battle power of the immortal farming sect, the strongest cultivator of the just generation of Daoist titles, Just Might. He was a cultivator overflowing with natural talent. With normal cultivation techniques, he managed to break through numerous difficulties and ascend into the rank for realm. If he could just enter a stronger sect. When he entered the airspace near the immortal farming sect members, Apprentice Brother collected the streak of light beneath his feet, and it transformed into a small and exquisite wooden sword before being collected into his sleeve. He then lightly landed on the ground. He had a slender figure, and didn't look like a cultivator, but instead a scholar who had come out of a painting. He made people feel kindly predisposed to him on first look. Apprentice Brother Just Might, not good. Apprentice Brother Just Heart was captured by someone. Apprentice Sister Just Joy is giving chase, and we can't contact her now. We also have no more news on the Su Clan's Liu we were planning to catch originally. What do we do now? That disciple with childish innocence threw himself into Apprentice Brother Just Might's embrace and started crying. Don't be scared, Just Glass. Am I not here? Apprentice Brother Just Might sighed. I just received news from the sect leader. Sect leader has found traces of Su Clan's Chi, and is now sure that Su Clan's Chi has entered a giant valley. There seems to be a power called the Moon Saber. Sect there. Now, sect leader has already taken out the sect guarding magical treasure, and the strongest strength of our immortal farming sect has already reached that giant valley. This time, we will make that Su Clan's Chi give us an explanation. I think it's very likely that Junior Apprentice Brother Just Heart was brought into that mountain valley as well. We may be able to save him at that time too. Su Clan's Chi was in a giant valley? Song Shuhang's heart was suspicious. I just don't understand, why would they capture Apprentice Brother Just Heart? That disciple with childish innocence obviously had a good relationship with Uncle Just Heart, and asked in sobs. Su Clan's Chi's goal is the 7 Shine Wonder Fruit. But the 7 Shine Wonder Fruit isn't just taken like that. He definitely wants to obtain the method of usage from our immortal farming sect. So he captured Junior Apprentice Brother Just Heart. Senior Apprentice Brother Just Might said in a low voice. Lightly patting that Junior Apprentice Brother Just Glass in his heart, Senior Apprentice Brother Just Might said in a low voice. Now, those who can still act, come with me to that giant valley, and meet up with the sect leader. Whether it's the Moon Saber sect or Su Clan's Chi, we won't fear them. A large majority of the disciples leapt up from the ground, faces full of emotion. There was one who had been more unlucky, who had been heavily injured in his abdomen area by Devil Monarch Anji's sword chi just now. He hadn't completely recovered yet, and when he vigorously jumped up from the ground, the already healed wound opened up again. Fresh blood dyed his abdomen area, and this looked more tragic than a visit from a great-aunt one. When apprentice brother Justwind saw this, he said in a soft voice, "Justwind, your wounds are too deep. Wait here for it to heal, to avoid any future medical complications. Justglass, stay behind to take care of Justwind." The Justwind who had an injured abdomen had a gloomy look. The one who was singled out to take care of the wounded member, Justglass, pouted. However, as he didn't dare to not listen to apprentice brother Justwind's words, he could only dejectedly stay behind. "Let's go." Senior apprentice brother waved his hand, and led the way. As the disciples behind him weren't able to fly in the sky, it wouldn't be right for him alone to fly in the sky. At the same time, senior apprentice brother shouted, "Go ahead a bit and go along the highway. When coming, I conveniently rented a bus. That bus is waiting for us at the highway. We'll take it before alighting near the Blue Origin Valley. Let's save some strength." This style had within a short time changed from having all the style of a Xianxia to having the style of an abnormal modern day. Justwind and Justglass were left behind. Also left behind was the forgotten Song Shuhang. From the start to the end, Justglass hadn't given Song Shuhang any pleasant looks. He was like a child throwing a tantrum and didn't listen to any advice as stubbornly as a donkey. The heavily injured Justwind had the typical Immortal Farming sect personality of being straightforward and gentle. Actually, Song Shuhang originally wanted to follow the Immortal Farming sect team out of this wilderness and find the highway to go back to Jiangnan University City. But the ones the Immortal Farming sect sent out this time were all rank 2 and above. With a whoosh whoosh whoosh, they had already jumped away such that not even their figures could be seen within a few jumps. So he could only give up and continue recovering. He'll make a move when he recovered enough energy. He had a general direction anyways, so he wouldn't get lost. After resting for a while, Song Shuhang stood up and looked the two Immortal Farming sect disciples. If hypothetically, he was to ask them to borrow a phone to tell Usher Liu that he was safe, would these two Immortal Farming sect disciples beat him to death? Millimeter, they probably wouldn't beat him to death. As most they'll beat him half to death. So, he should probably avoid doing so. My two fellow Taoists, you two can continue to rest. I have some things on, so I'll make a move first. Song Shuhang bade farewell to the Immortal Farming sect disciples to see if there were any public telephones or anything similar nearby. HMPH, who's your fellow Daoist? Justglass coldly harumphed. Don't be rude, Justglass. Mr. Song was only dragged into this calamity. He himself doesn't have any enmity with our Immortal Farming sect. Justwind rubbed Justglass's head, then cupped his fists towards Song Shuhang. Fellow Daoist, please go ahead. Also, please don't get involved in the enmity between our Immortal Farming sect AMD Su clans Chi. Song Shuhang mimicked cupping his fists in greeting, hiddenly sighing in his heart. Forget it. He'll return to Jiangnan University City first. He'll decide what to do next after meeting up with Senior Chi. Just as Song Shuhang prepared to make his leave, he heard a clear call. Song Shuhang. Song Shuhang. Song Shuhang looked up at the sky. Then, he saw a tall man, coming here while stepping on a streak of light. He had brought along a girl with short hair and exquisite features. Who? Usher Liu? Song Shuhang called out in surprise. How did she find her way here? And was that Senior Chi by her side? But just now, hadn't that senior apprentice brother of the Immortal Farming sect said something about discovering Senior Chi in some giant valley? The entire Immortal Farming sect had run over, so why was Senior Chi here? From the air, Su Clan's Chi brought Usher Liu and landed. Usher Liu's eyes shined. She said happily, "You managed to escape from that ball of black smoke. Maybe I was luckier today. Halfway through I happened to meet some Immortal Farming sect disciples who blocked that ball of black smoke Devil Monarch Anji's way. they thought the person captured inside was Usher Liu. Then, I took advantage of a chance to use a sword talisman and extricated myself from the Devil Monarch. Song Shuhang said and pointed at the two Immortal Farming Sect disciples. At this time, the Immortal Farming Sect's two disciples acted as if they had met a great enemy, and they widened as they nervously stared at Su Clan's Chi. Usher Liu looked at these two Immortal Farming Sect disciples and frowned. Her delicate nose wrinkled cutely. She didn't have a very favorable impression of the Immortal Farming Sect. Don't be like this, the Immortal Farming Sect disciples were made a fool of by someone. Song Shuhang explained, and reiterated the sequence of events Apprentice Brother Just Words had told him just now. Su Clan's Chi said in a low voice, which is to say, someone impersonated me on that night, snatched away the Immortal Farming Sect's 7 Shine Wonder Fruit, and in the end even showed a Sky Saber buries the Star Sea. Just Glass, who still had his childhood innocence, angrily shouted upon hearing this. What impersonation? It was obviously you who did it. After stealing my sect's 7 Shine Wonder Fruit, why don't you dare to admit it? Just Wind, who was at the side, hastily closed his mouth, a face full of vigilance. Ha 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 ha. Don't dare to admit it? Ever since I, Chi, started on my journey of the Tao, no matter what I do, I always dare admit it if I dare do it. But if it's something I didn't do, if anyone tries pin it on me, they'll have to ask if this saber in my hand agrees. Chi shouted loud and clear. Just Glass and Just Wind, without knowing why, were actually unable to rebut Chi's words. Also, that thief also used a Sky Saber buries the Star Sea, and heavily injured 18 of your sect's disciples. Ha ha, what kind of joke is that? Sky Saber buries the Star Sea is a technique I myself am not familiar with grasping it yet. When I use it, I'm unable to control its might. Under this kind of saber art, do you think Immortal Farming Sect disciples are qualified to survive? Chi fired back. Just Glass and Just Wind were speechless. They had never met highly ranked cultivators before, and so didn't have much of an idea regarding Sky Saber buries the Star Sea. But on witnessing Devil Monarch Unji's methods that let him defeat 15 of them in one move, they now had more understanding in their heart regarding the power of highly ranked cultivators. Even the rank for Devil Monarch Unji could defeat so many of them in one move. In comparison, Su Clan's Chi was even stronger. For the strongest move even he couldn't control, what qualifications did Immortal Farming Sect disciples have to survive? The higher-ups of the Immortal Farming Sect should have thought of this point, but people in Volt have their eyes clouded, and can't think clearly. Song Shuhang gave a hidden sigh, then asked curiously, "That's right, how did you find me, Usher Liu?" He, of course it's thanks to Great Master Tongxuan's imprint sensing art. I suddenly remembered that you had the Great Master's flying sword that had a spiritual imprint on it. Using the imprint sensing art, I could find you. So I flipped through your chat log and found this spiritual energy art. So we put to use Chi's powerful spiritual energy for this art, and locked onto your position. Saying to this point, Usher Liu suddenly said embarrassed. I looked through your chat logs without permission. You won't blame me, right? Song Shuhang laughed as he shook his head. He couldn't even start thanking her enough. Oh, that's right. Senior Chi, just now the senior apprentice brother of the Immortal Farming Sect came by. He said the Immortal Farming Sect leader had seen Su Clan's Chi in a giant valley. He brought many disciples over to meet up with the Immortal Farming Sect leader. Song Shuhang said. Just Wind and Just Glass felt their heart tremble, and looked at each other. That's right. If Su Clan's Chi was here, then was the one in the valley really a fake? Time and time again impersonating me, to the point where it's become a habit? Ha ha. Su Clan's Chi was enraged upon finding out, and with a light whistle, the magical saber transformed into a streak of light again. Get on. We'll go there now, and find that Moon Saber sect. I want to see what kind of game they're playing. While speaking, Su Clan's Chi lightly raised his right hand. An invisible force dragged Song Shuhang and Usher Liu, unstably making them stand on that streak of light. Achieving flight through swords. This time it was really true flight through swords. The blue sky that good boys dream of. I, Song Shuhang, am back. 1. Slang for period in China. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 135, Bloodbath in the Blue Origin Valley. Chapter 135, Bloodbath in the Blue Origin Valley. Many years later, a junior of the 9 Provinces #1 group would ask Song Shuhang what feelings were there for the first experience of using a sword, saber, to achieve flight. Song Shuhang's reply only had 5 words: "My legs felt like jelly." With a whoosh, Su Clan's cheese streak of light carried him and Usher Liu soaring into the sky, and that speed was simply indescribable with words. With a blink of an eye, they had already flown high into the sky. While using swords to fly, Song Shuhang only felt the empty air around, and just a streak of light below his feet. There was no sense of security at all. Actually, there was a layer of invisible force surrounding them, that blocked the wild winds caused by the sword, saber, flight. This was prepared by Senior Archie for Song Shuhang and Usher Liu. If not, when a powerful cultivator used swords to fly, why would they care about this little bit of wind? This could be seen by the exaggerated mohawk hairstyle Medicine Master would have after flying through swords to cross provinces. However, this invisible force could neither be seen nor touched. This couldn't bring any sense of security to Song Shuhang. If he could have for railings magically appear, Song Shuhang was sure in his heart that he would have a greater peace of mind. Then, looking down, he saw houses, mountains, roads, and rivers that had shrunk to become even smaller than matchboxes. High. It's very high. It's way too high. Song Shuhang felt himself briefly afflicted with vertigo. His legs involuntarily began to feel like jelly. He subconsciously grabbed in front of him, firmly grasping onto Su Clan's Usher Liu. If he didn't grab onto something, he suspected that he would kneel over. Your first time using swords to fly? Su Clan's Usher Liu glancingly looked straight at Song Shuhang. Ha ha ha. Song Shuhang felt as if he had started to talk a bit slowly and indistinctly already. Everyone would more or less have a fear of heights. Some people never felt it as they just hadn't climbed high enough yet. Or some had only a very slight fear that could be easily overcome with their willpower. Then slowly overcome it. If you don't, you won't be able to use swords to fly in the future. Su Clan's Usher Liu comfortingly encouraged him. The blue skies that good boys dream of was always accompanied by sweat and effort in the process. With whooshes, the flight using swords became explosively fast. Following that description of the location by the Moon Saber sect disciple Zhao Bulu, Su Clan's Archie quickly found the sect grounds of the Moon Saber sect. The giant Moon Saber sect was hidden among high mountains and forests, and also had a formation concealing any traces of it, which was why it was not discovered by the secular world. Of course, this level of formations couldn't fool Su Clan's Archie's eyes. He rode the streak of light and descended in front of the sect's entrance. His gaze directly pierced through the giant sect guardian formation. Usher Liu lightly jumped and landed on the ground. Song Shuhang lightly jumped and kneeled over on the ground. His legs really felt too much like jelly. Su Clan's Archie neared the Moon Saber sect's giant shielding formation and lightly shouted, "Open!" He didn't even draw his saber. Following his roar, the spiritual energy between heaven and earth formed a heaven and earth splitting giant saber. It viciously chopped at the giant sect guardian formation. Asterisk. Piak tilde tilde. That giant sect guardian formation of the Moon Saber sect was as weak as glass, and easily shattered into pieces that fell to the ground. Ooh? Song Shuhang and Usher Liu looked, but saw that the Moon Saber sect was empty inside, without any sign of anyone inside. No one was controlling it, and thus this giant formation that shielded the sect was so weak. Not even a sign of anyone here. That Zhao Bulu tricked us? She knitted her beautiful brows. I'll kill him when we get back. Song Shuhang asked. Who is Zhao Bulu? It's the fellow who robbed little Jiang's delivery. After you were captured, Archie and I went to delivery service Jiangnan headquarters to find that Zhao Bulu fellow. It was from him that we found the Moon Saber sect location. Usher Liu replied. Song Shuhang nodded. At this time, Archie spoke out. It's not false news. The Moon Saber sect people have all moved away. Also, they haven't been gone for very long. While speaking, he entered the Moon Saber sect. He slowly climbed up a perfectly straight set of stairs. Only then did Song Shuhang and Usher Liu see a white-clothed figure on that perfectly straight of stairs. A long sword on his waist, as refined as jade, and his demeanor was transcendent. He seemed as if an immortal who had walked out from an ancient painting. It was you as expected, young Master Hai. Young Master Hai. He was someone Archie had met quite a while ago while adventuring in ruins left behind by an ancient immortal. Although he had only had a rank for cultivation at that time, his sword arts were brilliant and exquisite. He had sparred with the battle maniac Archie, and had won Archie's respect despite losing. Several days before, young Master Hai had heard Su Clan's Archie was searching for medicines to heal heavenly tribulation injuries. He had recommended to him the immortal farming sect Seven Shine Wonder Fruit. He had also accompanied him to the immortal farming sect. If the mastermind was young Master Hai, then everything was understandable. He had adventured and lived together with him for almost a year. He had also witnessed Archie using Sky Saber berries the Star Sea once while adventuring. With this foundation, young Master Hai could easily fool the immortal farming sect disciples after becoming Su Clan's Archie. As for the Sky Saber berries the Star Sea, young Master Hai was naturally unable to learn it. However, to fake the stance of Sky Saber berries the Star Sea, to trick the people of the immortal farming sect was something easy. Brother Archie, you're here. That white-clothed man turned around. He was handsome, and his smile warmed people's hearts. Su Clan's Archie neared young Master Hai step by step. Since when did you start to plot against me? I didn't. Actually, I didn't start plotting against you in the beginning. It's just that your circumstances happens to fit the requirements to be the main character for my plan. Young Master Hai smiled slightly. If there was no Su Clan's Archie, he could still find a Wang Clan's RBA or a Zhao Clan's RJ.1. It was fine as long they fulfilled the requirements of being strong and had a relative injured by the heavenly tribulation. Ha 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 ha. That really fits your personality and sword arts. Su Clan's Archie laughed loudly. Then, he said in a low voice. Then, did you think what would be the end result of plotting against me? Of course I've thought of it. Everything is all in the palms of my hands. Young Master Hai gave a thumbs up to Su Clan's Archie. There's no need to worry about me, brother Archie. Do whatever you want to do. What cultivators cultivate is to be free and unfettered. Live naturally and unrestrained. Do whatever you want to do, drink the alcohol you want to, and play with the women you want to. Is this not what brother Archie taught me? Ha 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 ha, you said it very well. Archie suddenly drew his saber and chopped out towards the young Master Hai in front of him. Dazzling saber light as resplendent as the rising sun. It made one unable to keep their eyes open. The saber passed. Young Master Hai was cut into half and fell to the ground with a thud. He died just like that? Song Shuhang felt that this young Master Hai had appeared in such a cool manner. Who would have thought he would have died so easily? He's not dead. Let's go and seize this fellow's true body. We'll sacrifice him to this saber of mine. Su Clan's Archie didn't even turn his head and began to leave the Moon Saber sect. Behind, the two pieces of young Master Hai suddenly floated up with the wind and became a paper person who had been cut into two pieces. It wasn't a clone, but just something similar to 3D virtual human projection type of magical art. This paper man was just a medium for a spell. From the start, young Master Hai's true body wasn't here. Usher Liu unhappily asked. What is this young Master Hai up to? He's trying to incite conflict. He's trying to create enmity between the immortal farming sect and I, then use me to destroy the immortal farming sect. This is definitely one of his goals. But based on my understanding of him, this is just his plot on the surface, and a cover for others to see. Whether I can destroy the immortal farming sect or not, it doesn't matter to him. As for what he really wants, I can't guess it. Su Clan's Chi felt his teeth hurt. He liked to happily avenge enmities, and chop apart all enmities with his saber. He didn't like this kind of people who used strategies and conspiracies the most. His heart felt stifled. So, any kinds of conspiracies or plots he couldn't understand, he just wouldn't think about them. He'll capture young Master Hai and send him off with one saber. That was the best answer. If he felt really angry, he'll just chop him up into 8 or 10 pieces. That way his anger would be vented. Where should we go now? Song Shuhang asked. To find that fellow. Su Clan's Chi grit his teeth. Young Master Hai had left behind a projection art. He could follow the traces from this projection art to find young Master Hai. But, upon thinking that this was likely a lead left behind by young Master Hai, Chi felt his teeth itch. Outside the Blue Origin Valley, the sounds of battle echoed through the air, and explosions of true Chi could be heard without end. This had already become a bloodbath. The Immortal Farming Sect had more or less sent out all their elites, and crazily attacked the Moonsaber Sect. These Immortal Farming Sect cultivators who usually didn't specialize in battle all showed off terrifying battle strength. The number of casualties of the Moonsaber Sect disciples weren't few, but the casualties of the Immortal Farming Sect was even worse. There was something off. The Immortal Farming Sect leader felt anything but reassured in his heart. They had the determination to risk their life in this battle, with the thought of teaching Su Clan's Chi a lesson. But now, before even a sign of Su Clan's Chi could be seen, they were tied down by the Moonsaber Sect of the Blue Origin Valley. Then, a strange battle to the death begun. Not long after the battle started, all the Immortal Farming Sect members seemed to have gone crazy, and didn't know how to retreat, only knowing how to bloodthirstily go all out. The Immortal Farming Sect leader faintly felt that this was a secret formation of the Blue Origin Valley. It made cultivators crazy and bloodthirsty, unable to control their state of mind. The more people died, the more blood shed, the greater the power of this formation. But by the time the sect leader felt something was off, it was too late. Even he himself was unable to control his body. His eyes reddened, and his rationality disappeared bit by bit. The elite of the Immortal Farming Sect fell one by one, their life and death unknown. Very soon, apart from the sect leader, only 5 or 6 elites with higher spiritual energies and were less affected by the formation were left. Over. It's over. The Immortal Farming Sect leader sighed. The centuries of legacy of the Immortal Farming Sect would end due to him. The entire matter was simply too strange. Master! Quickly, rescue the sect leader! At this time, his ears distantly heard a familiar voice. Opening his eyes to look, he saw his eldest disciple Justmite bringing a team of Immortal Farming Sect disciples and rushing over. It was Justmite. A look of gratification appeared in the Immortal Farming Sect leader's eyes. Tear! At this time, the Moonsaber Sect's tyrant of 1,000 soldiers suddenly appeared next to the Immortal Farming Sect, and broke through his defense in one saber attack, impaling him. Ha ha! The tyrant of 1,000 soldiers laughed ferociously, and there was the smell of something charred in his breath. Bastard, stop harming my master! Justmite screamed. That wooden sword broke through the air, remotely chopping towards the tyrant of 1,000 soldiers. 1. The Chi in Chi means 7. The Ba and Ju mean 8 and 9 respectively. This is basically the other two names, following the same naming style as Chi. Basically, he's saying any Tom, Dick or Harry would have done. TN, so, after seeing so many comments and responses for the random game that I created on the spur of the moment for this chapter's teaser, I realized I may have raised your expectations a little too high for the answer. Whoops! As apology for the letdown as a participation prize, we'll release a 4th chapter this week. Hope you guys had fun guessing. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 136, Chat Photo Album, Watch Senior Archie Trample the Moonsaber Sect. Chapter 136, Chat Photo Album, Watch Senior Archie Trample the Moonsaber Sect. Remote Sword Arts? The tyrant of 1,000 soldiers couldn't not return a saber attack, and blocked the rapidly incoming wooden sword. Block! The saber and wooden sword clashed, causing a screeching sound, sparks, as well as shockwaves of chi. The tyrant of 1,000 soldiers knitted his brows. In that attack, his heavenly tribulation fire injuries had been aggravated, making him unable to help but retreat several steps. He had hiddenly taken a loss. Taking advantage of this chance, Just Might rushed over and grabbed the heavily injured sect leader, and quickly jumped out of the field of battle. That wooden sword seemed to have spirituality, and withdrew to defend its owner. It spun around near Just Might, slaying enemies, and attacking nearby Moonsaber sect disciples. Retreat! He shouted. The other rank 3 cultivator Just Words immediately brought away immortal farming disciples with tacit agreement, quickly retreating. Only the several immortal farming sect elites who had been with the sect leader were still trapped in an encirclement, with no chance of escape. They all roared and gave their all to tie up the Moonsaber sect disciples, in order to give Just Might and the sect leader a chance to escape. Tia. After being plotted against by the strange formation of the Moonsaber sect, the elite of the immortal farming sect had long since become exhausted. However, it was difficult to face off against greater numbers, and they were very quickly slaughtered by the Moonsaber sect disciples. Kill! The murderous natures of the Moonsaber sect disciples surfaced, and they wanted to chase down and kill Just Might, the immortal farming sect leader, as well as the defeated troops. No need to chase. At this time, the tyrant of 1,000 soldiers shouted in a low voice. According to the plan, he needed to let the immortal farming sect leader escape. Then, he'll wait for the spy already planted in the immortal farming sect to obtain the method of usage of the 7 Shine Wonder Fruit for him. The heavenly tribulation injuries that had been plaguing him for years finally saw hope of being healed. When the heavenly tribulation injuries were healed, then he would have the confidence of being able to form a gold core and charge towards the realm of rank 5 Spirit Emperor. On the other side, Su Clan's Chi was riding on the streak of light again. This time, Song Shuhang felt slightly better, and at least his legs didn't feel like jelly. That's right, Shuhang. I'll return your phone to you. Usher Liu took out the phone, saying, I also received a phone call on the way. After Lu's cultivator North River got your number through Medicine Master, he contacted you. He said he can arrange 1 week of lessons for an aeroplane license for you, and asked if you want to take the opportunity to learn to fly. With him, it'll be quick obtaining a license. Song Shuhang received the phone, and laughed dryly. Regarding this, wait for me to learn to drive first. Su Clan's Chi had listened to this point, and asked suspiciously. Little friend Shuhang, why do you want to learn how to fly an aeroplane? Work hard to cultivate to rank 4, and settle the matter in one go. Isn't it better to fly through swords? Flying through swords was incomparably free. Unlike aeroplanes, one didn't have to make an application to the country every time one wanted to fly. Song Shuhang dryly laughed, and replied. True Monarch White. Archie's face twitched. In that moment, Archie's tone was incomparably heavy. Work hard. Song Shuhang. Senior, this feeling of heaviness as if you're sending me off to a crematorium, how many meanings are there behind it? Exactly how scary is Senior True Monarch White, that all of you can't wait to avoid him? Just as Song Shuhang was about to ask about the achievements of True Monarch White, Archie suddenly shouted loudly. Found it! Right below, a giant valley that was enveloped in a faint blood-colored mist could be seen. Prepare to go down. Archie laughed, riding the streak of light downwards into the giant valley. Senior Archie, aren't we going to find a few helpers? Song Shuhang asked. Whatever the case, the enemy was an entire sect. What is there to be scared of? Su Clan's Chi confidently laughed. If we really can't win, we'll immediately run away. It's not too late to find a few helpers then. After descending to a certain height, a thick smell of blood entered Song Shuhang's nose. Below, the eldest disciple of the immortal farming sect just might had saved the sect leader, and were giving their all to retreat. Behind them was a ground full of corpses. There were those of the immortal farming sect, as well as those of the Moonsaber sect. This was a fight between two cultivator sects. At the back, the Moonsaber sect leader, the tyrant of 1,000 soldiers, raised his right hand, and the victorious Moonsaber sect disciples let out wave after wave of cheers. HMPH, Su Clan's Chi coldly harumphed. Whoosh! In a flash, the streak of light arrived and landed in front of the tyrant of 1,000 soldiers. Then, Chi tossed away a metal command tally with a phoenix engraved on it. It floated above Song Shuhang and Su Clan's Shiliu's head, transforming into a layer of fiery red light. The two of you stay here, and don't leave the defensive perimeter of the Big Dipper Spirit Phoenix command. Having finished speaking, he took big strides towards the Moonsaber sect disciples. Senior Chi wants to challenge the entire Moonsaber sect all alone? Song Shuhang was slightly excited as he saw the scene in front of him. One man facing off against an entire sect by himself. That was really exciting and hot-blooded when you thought about it. Millimeter, Shiliu nodded slightly. Chi does this kind of thing often. Don't worry, nothing will happen. In a split second, Chi had already stepped into the crowd of Moonsaber sect disciples. Saber Chi exploded, and saber light fell like rain. Every step Chi took, there would surely be Moonsaber sect disciples who fell, dead or injured, and lost their battle power. Although it was just a single explosion of Saber Chi, and Chi hadn't even made an actual move yet, there were already so many injured Moonsaber sect disciples. Young Master Hai, still not out yet? Su Clan's Chi laughed at the top of his voice, the imposing presence of a rank 5 Spirit Emperor crushing towards the Moonsaber sect disciples. The remaining disciples were stricken with fear. They retreated without pause, their morale greatly diminished. The tyrant of 1,000 soldiers had a cold expression on his face. Him, the Moonsaber sect leader, had actually seemed to have been ignored. Don't look down on others. Activate the formation, the tyrant of 1,000 soldiers shouted. The altered sect giant guardian formation was activated once again. The Moonsaber sect disciples also skillfully coordinated and came together as a giant formation. That was the basis of their resistance against the mighty pressure of Su Clan's Chi. Inside the Big Dipper Spirit Phoenix command, Song Shuhang took out his phone to take a few photos. Then he posted the photo to the 9 Provinces No. 1 group's group space. This was the result of his recent habit of posting his experiences on his space. Alas, this photo wasn't suitable to send into his own space. So he could only send it to the chat space. In the photo, Su Clan's Chi had his hands clasped behind his back, and his magical saber roamed around next to him, chopping down enemies. Moonsaber sect disciples were unendingly falling down around him. Trembling with terror, they formed a giant formation under the direction of their sect leader tyrant of 1,000 soldiers. Song Shuhang then added a caption, sitting down to watch Senior Chi trample the Moonsaber sect. It was once again proven. The 9 Provinces No. 1 group had many bored seniors, who were frequently keeping track of the news in the group. It was just that they didn't speak out as often as Loose Cultivator North River. Just as Song Shuhang uploaded this photo, his phone rang non-stop with notification alerts. Within a few seconds, there was a whole stream of likes by seniors, and there was an especially large stream of messages. Loose Cultivator North River, Mad Saber 3 Waves, True Monarch Mount Huang, Venerable 7 Cultivations, Da Luo Sects True Monarch Rain Moon, True Monarch Old River Viewing, Rome Cloud Monk Tongxian, Immortal Master Copper Trigrams, Resident Drunk Moon, Medicine Master, Talisman Master 7 Lives, Spirit Butterfly Island Soft Feathers, etc. Basically every senior and member who had ever spoken in the chat group all liked this photo. Then there was a long row of replies. Loose Cultivator North River with a foolish smile emoticon. Chi went to trample on someone else's sect again? Loose cultivator North River was always the first to boldly reply or give likes. As expected of the Da Luo sect's true monarch Rain Moon is someone who will feel uncomfortable all over for each day he doesn't pick a fight. Talisman Master 7 lives. Speaking of which, what the heck is this Moon Saber sect? Are they qualified to be trampled by our Archie? Mad Saber 3 waves. I think it should some small sect, from some small place, that doesn't have eyes which offended Archie. Lately Archie's temper has been rather big. Wasn't Senior 3 waves looking for the mysterious island? He still had time to go online? Immortal Master Copper Trigrams, big temper +1. Also, at True Monarch Mount Huang, True Monarch, it's about time to let me out, right? I've been banned for so many days already, it's really uncomfortable. True Monarch Mount Huang, big temper +1. Also at Immortal Master Copper Trigrams, ha ha. Spirit Butterfly Island Soft Feathers, crying emoticon, it's really been lively over there at Senior Song these few days. How great, he can go play at so many places. I too want to go see Senior Archie go trample other sects with Senior Song. This Missy Soft Feathers, she had lately been forced to stay in Spirit Butterfly Island, and was completely bored. Now she was completely envious when she saw Song Shuhang these few days dealing with some Salter Master, and following Senior Archie to trample the Moonsaber sect. At this moment, Medicine Master appeared. At great pressure of Mount Books, take another photo. Aim at the big one carrying a saber. He's obviously the boss of the Moonsaber sect. His body seems to have some problems. Even Medicine Master's replies weren't slow. The corners of Song Shuhang twitched. Usher Liu saw that Song Shuhang kept swiping on his phone, and curiously leaned her head over. What are you doing? I just sent a photo to the chat group. Song Shuhang sighed. The seniors in the group are very bored. Millimeter. Apart from the closed-door cultivation, they're always very bored. Usher Liu seriously nodded. As Senior Medicine Master had a request, Song Shuhang adjusted the phone camera and aimed at the Moonsaber sect boss Tyrant of 1,000 soldiers. He took quite a few photos. Oops! I accidentally left the flash on. The Tyrant of 1,000 soldiers had been about to step forward bravely. Borrowing the sect's giant formation, he had been about to forcefully go against Su Clan's Chi. As long as he stalled Chi for a while, Rung Master Hai would be able to prepare properly and activate another giant formation. They could then beat back Chi. At this moment, his eye saw a series of flashes. He was terrified out of his wits and thought Su Clan's Chi had unleashed some kind of finishing move. But when he looked over, he saw a youth behind Su Clan's Chi holding a phone. He had a stupid smile on his face as he furiously took photos. Fudge, did he think he was filming some kind of movie? The Tyrant of 1,000 soldiers was enraged. At the same time, he secretly willed the sect giant guardian formation to revolve faster. He would let the disciples temporarily tie down Su Clan's Chi. As for him, he secretly crept towards where Song Shuhang and Usher Liu were. He wanted to deal with these two fellows first. Song Shuhang selected a clear photo of the Tyrant of 1,000 soldiers and sent it to the group space. Great pressure of Mount Books, at Medicine Master, Senior, how is this photo? Medicine Master then replied, Medicine Master takes too long to type, I can't take it anymore. I'll type for him. This was evidently Jiang Xian's tone of speaking. Shuhang, Medicine Master said, that Moonsaber sect boss has injuries on his bodies. It's Heavenly Tribulation Flame injuries, just that he forcefully suppressed them. Do you have that TriStar Flame control fan on you? Is it charged with electricity? If so, try waving it a few times in his direction, set to the maximum power. There will be a pleasant surprise. TriStar Flame control fan? Song Shuhang grabbed at a long trouser leg pocket and took out this magical treasure. Because this was the first magical treasure he had come into contact with in his life, he treasured it a lot despite how it needed to be charged with electricity, and kept it with him at all times. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., Please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 137, Little Friend Shu Hang, do you want some benefits? Chapter 137, Little Friend Shu Hang, do you want some benefits? There would be a pleasant surprise? Could the TriStar Flame Control Fan control the heavenly tribulation flames on the Moon Saber Sect, boss? Something as powerful as heavenly tribulation flames could be controlled by the TriStar Flame Control Fan? While Song Shu Hang was thinking, the tyrant of 1,000 soldiers controlled the sect giant guardian formation to continuously revolve, and found an opportunity with great difficulty. Laughing, he took to the skies using his saber, and appeared above Song Shu Hang and Su Clan's Usher Liu. Then, the treasure saber under his feet spun in a circle. Saber light in the shape of a half-moon was formed and spun towards Song Shu Hang and Usher Liu. The tyrant of 1,000 soldiers couldn't see the existence of the Big Dipper Spirit Phoenix Command. The Big Dipper Spirit Phoenix Command was the same as Great Master Tongxuan's flying sword. Both had concealing formations on them. Those with strength lower than Su Clan's Qi would be unable to see this Big Dipper Spirit Phoenix Command. Song Shu Hang and Usher Liu were being protected by the Big Dipper Spirit Phoenix Command, which was why they could see it and that layer of fiery red defensive layer. But in the eyes of the tyrant of 1,000 soldiers, Song Shu Hang and Usher Liu were just juniors with a lot of guts but no brains, and unexpectedly were standing at the back of the battlefield with no preparations. The opportunity couldn't be lost, and wouldn't come back when lost. This saber would give a disability card to these two juniors for free. Block! The saber light he chopped out with slammed into the Big Dipper Spirit Phoenix Command, and was easily blocked. The defense of the Big Dipper Spirit Phoenix Command was very high. If it wasn't, how would Su Clan's Qi be at ease, leaving Song Shu Hang and Usher Liu at the back? The tyrant of 1,000 soldiers froze, but he immediately understood. These two juniors had a high-rank defensive magical treasure. HMPH defensive magical treasures are but dead things. They have an upper limit to how much it can withstand. Watch me break it! The tyrant of 1,000 soldiers thought secretly, and his figure jumped. His hands grasped a giant saber. The name of the saber was Tyrant Breaker, and the saber was 1.1 meters long, and made of lightning pool heavy gold. It was extremely young attributed as well as extremely hard. Its toughness far exceeded magical sabers of the same rank. The saber was extremely sharp, and capable of cutting the bodies of rank for cultivator. This was the saber-type treasure weapon passed down through generations in the Moon Saber sect. It could be considered to be a quality item even among treasure weapons of the same rank. Moonwheel Chop! The tyrant of 1,000 soldiers held the treasure saber aloft, and traced out the shape of a full moon, chopping down. At this time, all that could be seen was that young man opening a metal fan, then press a button on the fan 6 times. The young man stepped forward, pointed the fan at him, then lightly waved it at him. Was it some offensive magical treasure? The tyrant of 1,000 soldiers made his mental preparations. Then, after the wave, the expected attack never came. Fan-shaped magical treasures had two types of attacks, which were simply those of the wind as well as fire-type attacks. But when this young man waved his fan, there wasn't any kind of attack. While suspicious, he suddenly felt an acute burning pain on his back and arms. Before he could respond, the heavenly tribulation flames began to burn, and made him into a burning fireball. Within the blink of an eye, the tyrant of 1,000 soldiers had already burnt to ashes. The magical robes, armor, command tally and medicinal pills on him all turned into flying ash. In addition, there was a fruit emitting a 7-colored radiance that was also destroyed by the tribulation flames. Even that Tyrant Breaker saber had a layer of pale golden flames on it. Ding! After its master turned into ash, the Tyrant Breaker saber fell to the ground. Its position just happened to be in front of Song Shu Hang. After dropping, the tribulation flames gradually disappeared. It wasn't the target of the tribulation flames, or else it would have become molten metal long ago. Song Shu Hang held the TriStar Flame Control Fan between his finger and thumb, and swallowed his saliva. He was finished just like that. A cultivator who seemed so strong, turned into flying ash with just a light wave? Speaking of which, he had killed quite a lot these few days. Also, the ones getting killed all kept getting stronger than the previous one. Flame control fan? Usher Liu looked at the fan in Song Shuhang's hand. As expected, there weren't useless magical treasures. There were only cultivators who didn't know how to use magical treasures. Song Shuhang kept the flame control fan and looked at that saber next to him. He kneeled and gingerly extended his hand to touch that Tyrant Breaker saber. This saber definitely had its special points to survive the tribulation flames. After lightly touching it, Song Shuhang realized that after the tribulation flames, its body remained cool. If not for a charred black layer on its surface, he would have thought the tribulation flame he had seen was an illusion. The Moon Saber sect disciples were simply unable to understand the death of the tyrant of 1,000 soldiers. They saw the powerful and domineering sect leader leap high into the sky and chop out with saber light. Then he used the Moon Saber sect's strongest technique, the Moonwheel Chop. Then, the sect leader had become a fireball and had been burnt until not even ashes could be seen. They were now a group of headless dragons, and the Moon Saber sect disciples became chaotic. Without the direction of the sect leader, the sect giant guardian formation was unable to maintain its original state and became chaotic. It completely lost its effectiveness. Ha 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 ha. Su Clanza Chi laughed loudly. The edge of saber moved, and the Moon Saber sect disciples blocking in front of him were all sent flying with a bang. Moon Saber sect disciples littered the ground. In the Blue Origin Valley, young Master Hai had a high vantage point, and had been watching the battle outside throughout. Jijie, sect leader tyrant of 1,000 soldiers, has finally become a martyr. It's earlier than we planned, and the method of death surpassed our imaginations. The devil monarch Anji clone in his sleeve laughed weirdly. I remember that he kept the 7-Shine Wonder Fruit by his side at all times, right? That was his hope to heal the tribulation flames, and he never let it leave his side. Was it destroyed also? Ha ha! Young Master Hai flipped his hand, and a fruit emanating a 7-colored radiance appeared in his hand. The 7-Shine Wonder Fruit has been in my hands from start to finish. Devil Monarch Anji's heart felt cold. His clone had always been in young Master Hai's sleeve. He actually didn't know when young Master Hai had made a switch of the real 7-Shine Wonder Fruit. It's about time. If we let Brother Archie continue to chop them down, the number of Moon Saber sect disciples won't be enough to maintain the new sect guardian formation. Young Master Hai unsheathed the long sword on his waist, and it silently floated to his feet. Young Master Hai stepped forward, and stably stepped onto the sword light. The sword light flashed, and brought him to the air outside of the Blue Origin Valley. All of the disciples maintain your calm. From now on listen to my instructions. Young Master Hai's gentle voice reverberated throughout the entire Blue Origin Valley. After the Moon Saber sect disciples heard Elder Young Master Hai's voice, their hearts calmed down. Very quickly, under the direction of young Master Hai, the disciples gathered to form the sect giant guardian formation. Their morale gradually recovered, and they slowly used the formation to surround Su Clanza Chi once again. You finally came out, young Master Hai. Su Clanza Chi laughed out. Young Master Hai smiled slightly, not giving the impression of weakness. I've been waiting for you all this time, Brother Archie. While saying so, he raised both his hands, and a giant formation in the Blue Origin Valley was activated. The blood mist above their heads became thicker. The battle was on the verge of breaking out any moment. Song Shuhang opened his chat space again, then added some news to the picture of the Moon Saber sect boss. Great pressure of Mount Books, at Medicine Master, Senior. I found the other side a few times. The other side, burnt to ashes. Medicine Master's account quickly replied. Ha 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 ha. It's just as this old man expected. The heavenly tribulation flames has been on this fellow for too long. After also undergoing many medical treatments, the heavenly tribulation flames are no longer pure. Thus, it can be slightly controlled by the TriStar Flame Control Fan. It doesn't need to be too strong. As long as it can ignite the source, it'll burn him to ashes in an instant, that's what Medicine Master said. Song Shuhang grabbed the TriStar flame control fan. To be able to see so many things from just a photograph, all the seniors were really unfathomable. Just as Song Shuhang was sighing with emotion, that picture sitting to watch Senior Archie trample the Moonsaber sector got a few more comments. Talisman Mansion Master 7 lives, at great pressure of Mount Books. I've just taken a closer look at the picture. I keep feeling that there's something wrong with the formation the Moonsaber sect disciples formed. Little friend Shuhang, do you have a way to take a clearer photo? Try your best to take an approximate appearance of the formation. Talisman Mansion Master wasn't just a master of the Tao of Talismans. He also had profound attainments in formations. This was because the Tao of Talismans and formations naturally supplemented and complemented each other after all. When Song Shuhang saw this message, he replied, "Understood. I'll take a few clearer ones." That's right. If this formation is dangerous, will Senior Archie be in danger? Talisman Mansion Master, that's not necessarily true. If Archie goes all out, he can fight above his rank. Also, I'm only guessing as to whether there are any abnormalities to the formation. Take a picture of everything first before anything else. I'll immediately take a photo and upload it. Song Shuhang replied. Then he grabbed his phone and pointed it in the direction of the Moonsaber sect. He tried to put all of the disciples in the formation in the photo, and took a few pictures. Then he sent these photos to the group space. Usher Liu neared Song Shuhang and silently looked at the contents on the phone. Talisman Mansion Master 7 lives. There really are weird points about this. The formation that these disciples formed can indeed explosively increase battle power in a short time. But in truth, if I didn't guess wrongly, the side effects of this formation should be very big, right? At Venerable 7 Cultivations, Venerable, can you take a look? With the shape of this valley, I keep feeling something is off. Venerable 7 Cultivations, correct. With the shape of this valley and the concealed second formation, the one using this formation really does have a vicious enough heart. Talisman Mansion Master 7 lives. With Venerable's words of assurance, then I'll be more confident. Little friend Shuhang, let me ask you, do you want some extra benefits? Great pressure of Mount Books, what benefits? Talisman Mansion Master, if your luck is good, you should be able to obtain a valuable training material. Then, it can also let your body strengthen to a certain extent and may actually let you open your heart acupoint early and complete your 100 days foundation establishment. Of course, there is danger. But with Su Clan's Chu, you definitely won't die. What do I need to do? Song Shuhang immediately asked. Completing the 100 days foundation establishment and strengthening his body was indeed a current desire for Song Shuhang. Talisman Mansion Master 7 lives. Come, I've drawn a circle on the picture. I've sent it to you. First look for the position of the red circle I've drawn. Very quickly, Mansion Master sent a photo, and when Song Shuhang compared it, he noticed that that red circle was a position 400 meters from him, next to a nameless tree. Talisman Mansion Master 7 lives. Venerable 7 Cultivations, there's improvement. This position is indeed correct. Talisman Mansion Master 7 lives. Little friend Shuhang, have you found the location yet? Give me a call after you find it. We'll maintain contact. Let me explain the current situation and instruct you on the next step. Found it. Song Shuhang replied. He held up his phone with both hands and searched for Talisman Mansion Master 7 lives' number. At this moment, it wasn't just him fighting alone. All the seniors of the 9 provinces #1 group were backing him up. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 138, Just stand there and don't move. Chapter 138, Just stand there and don't move. I don't know what you're plotting. Su Clan's Chi said. But it matters not. Whatever you're thinking of doing. As long as I chop you in half, there will be no problems. Brother Archie, you're as decisive as usual. Young Master Hai smiled slightly. No need to be polite. With the support of the sect Giant Guardian formation of the Moon Saber sect, I can surpass the limits of my body and fight with you. Let's compete in our saber and sword once again. Wouldn't that be enjoyable? Compete in our saber and sword? Su Clanza Chi said coldly. You think this is still a competition? The me today has no interest in competing. The thing he liked the most in life was to compete and challenge. That was why he was known as a battle maniac by those in the 9 Provinces #1 group. But today, he only had the desire to chop someone up. Su Clanza Chi said again, Rank 1 cultivators and Rank 2 cultivators have a large realm in between them. Rank 4 and Rank 5 cultivators too, have a large realm between them. Yes, I know. Young Master Hai said, nodding his head. No, you understand nothing, just like a certain monopolistic web company destroying an online community. Su Clanza Chi laughed. His body then became translucent, and a gold core as dazzling as a rising sun was in his body. Rank 5 Gold Core. When the gold core forms, the true chi in a cultivator's body will undergo a qualitative transformation, and become spiritual energy. Spiritual energy and true chi shared the same origin, but spiritual energy had a rank suppressive effect on true chi. The two could be said to be as different as wooden swords and a sharp steel sword. Ever since Chi had formed his gold core and ascended to become a spirit emperor, the opponents he could challenge became fewer and fewer. Even the fellow battle maniac in the 9 Provinces #1 group, Mad Saber 3 Waves, had been beaten by him until he was scared. So when he usually competed with people, during the challenge he would rarely use his full strength to challenge people. Chi pointed his finger at young Master Hai. A drop of spiritual energy flowed out from his gold core, entering his forefinger. When this drop of spiritual energy exited the body, it transformed into a golden pearl and fired towards young Master Hai. The speed of the pearl was too fast, and the other cultivators could only see a golden light flash past. And, in this small spiritual energy gold bead, there was a grand total of 80 saber lights. Formation activate! Young Master Hai's face became dignified, and he lightly shouted. Change formation, the 5th formation. The Moon Saber sect disciples below all began to move, and under the direction of the various elders, they formed the new sect Giant Guarding Formation 5th formation. In the Giant formation, every Moon Saber sect disciple roared with high morale. They integrated their true chi, and blood into the sect Giant Guardian formation, allowing the power of the sect Giant Guardian formation to add onto young Master Hai's body. At the same time, the blood mist up above the Blue Origin Valley suddenly gathered, and formed layers of defense in front of young Master Hai. The golden pearl made of saber lights reached in the flash of an eye. Tear! The spiritual energy golden bead with 80 saber lights crashed into the blood mist, and the defense made from the blood mist was as weak as tofu, and was easily pierced through. In the moment after, the golden bead of saber lights had already reached in front of young Master Hai. Young Master Hai hurriedly wielded a small jade shield. This small jade shield wasn't a magical treasure, but a talisman weapon. And it was also a precious talisman weapon that could guard against a single attack by a rank 5 Spirit Emperor. The golden bead of saber tips crashed against the small jade shield. And in a flash, the small jade shield started to shatter as well. It was indeed a talisman weapon that could block one attack of a rank 5 Spirit Emperor. However, that was limited to the most ordinary rank 5 Spirit Emperors, not the kind that was Su Clanza Chi. Young Master Hai's right sleeve opened. Devil Monarch Anji, your turn. That clone of Devil Monarch Anji laughed weirdly, and before that small jade shield shattered, its body flashed in front of the spiritual energy golden bead, and swallowed this drop of spiritual energy. Then, that clone fled away towards the front direction. Before it had even reached 50 meters, the drop of spiritual energy had already exploded. Boom! The saber light exploded, and Devil Monarch Anji's clone was blown to pieces. The generated giant shockwaves of chi made the young Master Hai, who was flying in the sky through his sword, totter unstably. Young Master Hai wielded another small jade shield talisman again. Only then did he block the explosion of saber light. Young Master Hai stabilized his figure with great difficulty, and sighed hiddenly. And so, exactly how terrifying the Gold Core realm is, I knew it long ago. It was exactly because he knew how terrifying rank 5 Spirit Emperors were, that he had to become one himself. Su Clan's Chi's attack was blocked. But the Moon Saber sect disciples had deeply felt the might of Chi, and they were suppressed by the invisible pressure such that they were gasping for breath. Facing the terrifying Su Clan's Chi, they could only do their best to support the sect Giant Guardian formation, because this was the only hand they had to play. The disciples wandered about non-stop, revolving the true Chi in their bodies, pouring all their energy into the sect Giant Guardian formation. They only had one thought in their minds. They just had to maintain the sect Giant Guardian formation. Then they could block Su Clan's Chi's attack. Then, they would beat him back. Without knowing when, both eyes of the Moon Saber sect disciples were bright red, and they were short of breath. Elder Young Master Hai. In the end, the Moon Saber sect disciples entered a state of insanity, calling out young Master Hai's name. Settled. In the crowd, a disciple whose features were covered by black smoke surreptitiously exited this new sect Giant Guarding formation, and disappeared in a moment. It was Devil Monarch Anji. His true body had been quietly hiding among the Moon Saber sect disciples, putting to good use his devilish techniques to confuse their minds in secret, all so they would descend into a state of madness even faster. Young Master Hai stabilized his body with great difficulty, and looked at Su Clan's Chi. Although he seemed to slightly cut a sorry figure, he continued to maintain his elegant demeanor as usual. Then? Are you going to rely on these talisman treasures and magical treasures to put up your final struggles? Su Clan's Chi said indifferently. Come my saber. The magical saber landed in his hand. Without using sword flight, Su Clan's Chi continued to stand in midair as if he was stepping on normal ground. In that moment, the power of the saber was like heavenly might. The Su Clan's Chi wielding a saber and the one not, were as if two completely different people. Young Master Hai's body was affected by the power of the saber and slightly trembled. However, he quickly regained his cool. I never expected that even if I used all my talisman treasures and magical treasures, I couldn't even block your third saber strike. Su Clan's Chi frowned slightly. Actually, when you, Su Clan's Chi, appeared in this blue origin valley, my plan was already complete. Young Master Hai raised both his hands, smiling. Everything was in the palm of his hands. Now was the time to reel in the net. See that? Brother Chi, those charming calls of the Moon Saber sect disciples below? They're fanatically pouring all the energy in their bodies into the sect Giant Guardian formation. They only have one thought in their minds, which is to beat back Su Clan's Chi. This is the use of you, Brother Chi, in my plan. You don't even need to do anything. You just need to stand there, and give a huge sense of pressure to the Moon Saber sect disciples. To resist you, they would desperately squeeze out all their potential. They would pour all their true Chi, as well as Chi and blood into the operation of the sect Giant Guardian formation. But it's not enough. The sect Giant Guardian formation I've modified is very greedy. Not only the true Chi in the Moon Saber sect disciples' body, but even their life force and their overstimulated souls are targets for the sect Giant Guardian formation to absorb. Because of the strong faith in their hearts, they are just like those religious fanatics of ancient times. Compared to sacrifices that get killed while despairing, these Moon Saber sect disciples who are religious fanatics can contribute much more life force and soul energy. It's really too great. They're the perfect sacrifices. Revel joyously, sing loudly, and dance. My sacrifices. Below, the Moon Saber sect disciples seemed to have gone mad, madly dancing about. They were loudly shouting out at Elder Young Master Hai, their eyes bright red and their rationality gone. Then, the disciples of the Moon Saber sect all fell down onto the ground one after another. Formation activate. Blood God Evil Saber formation. Both of Young Master Hai's hands raised, and the blood mist in the blue origin valley rose. Devil Monarch Anji's true body laughed Jian weirdly, and suddenly appeared behind Young Master Hai. Devilish flames on his body surged to the sky. The reason that the Moon Saber sect disciples below could descend into a state of madness so fast was because of his effort. Devil Monarch Anji and young Master Hai stood back to back, and both their hands raised to the air. They both controlled this Blood God Evil Saber formation together. Survivors of the Blood Saber sect. Two clans Chi got into a strange stance to attack with his saber. Sky. Saber. Berries. The Star. Sea. After a gap of so many years, how much power would be unleashed when Su clans Chi once again used the Sky Saber Berries the Star Sea? On the other side, Talisman Mansion Master 7 Lives was taking the time to explain the strange points of the sect Giant Guardian formation in front of them. This Blue Origin Valley and the formation together is actually the Blood God Evil Saber formation that the Blood Saber sect that was exterminated that year used to sacrifice life force and form their innate Blood God Saber. But the Moon Saber sect's formation has actually undergone some alterations from the original. But no matter how much the formation changes, 10,000 superficial changes won't change it fundamentally. It can't hide from my eyes. Talisman Mansion Master 7 Lives said smugly. Are there any changes in the Blue Origin Valley now? A giant blood mist rose and enveloped the entire Blue Origin Valley. Senior Archie seems to be about to make his move. Song Shuhang said excitedly. It's at this time. Go little friend Shuhang. Rush to the position I marked out. Wait until this formation ends, and you'll strike it rich. Talisman Mansion Master 7 Lives laughed. Song Shuhang had long since tensed up his muscles. He rushed like a leopard to that nameless tree, and asked at the same time. Would Senior Archie not break this formation? It can't be destroyed. Even if you kill the controller, this giant formation will continue to be active. And if you kill all the Moon Saber sect disciples, the formation will just activate faster. When this formation started, all of these Moon Saber sect disciples had already become living sacrifices, becoming materials for the innate Blood God Saber. Whether they now earlier or later doesn't matter. It will at most affect the final benefits. Talisman Mansion Master said. Unless he flattens the entire Blue Origin Valley in one hit. Archie can do this, but he needs to store up energy for a long time. There isn't time now for Archie to store up energy, and we can only hope he kills the controller. At this time, Song Shuhang had already reached the designated point. I've reached. What do I do next? You don't need to do anything. Just stand there and don't move. Just quietly wait for a meat pie to fall from the sky. Talisman Mansion Master 7 Lives said smugly. The only thing you need to take note of is to not to get eliminated by someone in the meantime. I'll hang up first. If you're still alive in a while, call me to tell me your gains. Song Shuhang hung up the call. He carefully squatted at the position. He was making himself a smaller target so he wouldn't be so obvious. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 139, Just Call Me Great Pressure of Mount Books. Chapter 139, Just Call Me Great Pressure of Mount Books. Song Shuhang's luck was not bad, and the Moon Saber sect disciples not far from him had all gone mad. After jumping about a while, they all fainted on the ground. No one noticed him. In the Blue Origin Valley, the blood mist got denser. After approximately 2 breaths, Song Shuhang suddenly felt his heart acupoint warm up with some kind of scorching hot sensation. He was very familiar with this feeling. Every time he cultivated the Vajra foundational fist technique, then used true self-meditation scripture to send chi and blood into his heart acupoint, it was exactly this feeling. But whenever he cultivated himself, it would normally stop after a slight burning. But now, the heart acupoint was simply continuously increasing in temperature. That meant that as of now, the chi and blood in his heart acupoint was shooting up. The higher it rose, the less the time he would use in the future on completing his 100 days foundation establishment. And if it kept increasing, he may just open his heart acupoint today, and complete the 100 Days Foundation establishment. This was one of the benefits that Talisman Master Seven Lives had mentioned. Boom! Two clans of Chi's saber chopped into the Blue Origin Valley, entering that dense blood mist. Boom 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 boom, terrifying explosions of saber light continuously resounded. Exactly how powerful was the Sky Saber Berries the Star Sea? As a saber art even Su Clan's Chi couldn't control. When this saber struck, and the saber Chi spread, its destructive power would not weaken after spreading for several hundred meters. Ding 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 tilde tilde. Strange sounds kept resounding from the blood mist, and the blood mist got denser. After 5 breaths, Su Clan's Chi returned his saber to his sheath, but his frown deepened. It seemed that young Master Hai hadn't died yet. In the Blue Origin Valley, that blood mist that covered the sky began to disappear. The first to enter Archie's vision was a young Master Hai with ragged clothes. His hair was disheveled, and there were injuries and bloodstains all over his body. But he was still alive. And he had still had that detestable smile on his face. In young Master Hai's hand there was a blood saber so red that it was almost black. It was spurting hot chi. The innate blood god saber had already formed. With this saber, young Master Hai had the confidence to assail the rank 5 realm, and form his gold core. Behind him, Devil Monarch Anji opened his mouth, and sucked in a stream of devil chi from below the Blue Origin Valley. The blood god evil saber formation was something he and young Master Hai had revised together. They were also controlling it together, and using the entire Moon Saber sect as sacrifices. Young Master Hai gained an innate blood god saber. And he gained this Threevil's devil chi. This was one of the benefits of their cooperation. And next to them was a man with long messy hair and fierce features. The man's body was covered in fresh blood as well, with countless big and small wounds. He was currently grimacing in pain. It was him who had blocked Su Clan's Chi's Sky Saber Berries the Star Sea. When Su Clan's Chi saw this man with fierce features, his gaze became fiery. His right hand gradually grabbed onto his saber handle. Devil Monarch Mad Tyrant. Infinity Devils Sect Devil Monarch Mad Tyrant. A rank 5 gold core realm cultivator with powerful strength. The disciples of the Infinity Devils Sect all had extreme dispositions, and were all extremely unconventional in character. Devil Monarch Mad Tyrant was the only one more harmless among the members of the Infinity Devils Sect, as long as no one angered him. But it just so happened that Devil Monarch Mad Tyrant had a constitution that naturally agitated others. Just casually walking on the streets, there could be people who felt him unpleasing for no reason, and would want to slap or spit at him. Then, well, there was no then after that. It was because of this special constitution of his that when he had appeared a few days ago, there had specially done a report on him. It had been to let various cultivators who had gone out be more careful, and not annoy Devil Monarch Mad Tyrant for no reason, and bring upon themselves suffering. To be able directly take on my Sky Saber Berries the Star Sea. Devil Monarch Mad Tyrant has a well-deserved reputation as expected. Su Clan's Chi grasped the saber handle tightly, his desire for battle burning. Since you want to stand out for young Master Hai, then let's battle. Then battle. Let me have a joyful battle. Archie began to get very excited. I only owed junior apprentice brother young Master Hai a favor. I just came to protect him this once. Devil Monarch Mad Tyrant grimaced. For the Sky Saber Berries the Star Sea, just now, he had had to stake his life on blocking it. Don't talk so much. Let's fight. Su Clan's Chi said. Junior apprentice brother young Master Hai? So young Master Hai had long since been a disciple of the Infinity Devils Sect. Today is not the day to fight. You and I both have things to worry about. You have to protect those two fellows behind you. I have to protect junior apprentice brother young Master Hai and a junior of mine. Devil Monarch Mad Tyrant said. After a while, I'll fix a battle with you. Su Clan's Chi frowned. As the two gold core experts were interacting, young Master Hai slightly smiled and stretched out his hand. The innate blood god saber was just one of the benefits of his giant formation. the second big benefit was about to come. For blood-red crystals suddenly appeared in thin air, gently falling towards young Master Hai. The blood mist that had covered the sky in the Blue Origin Valley hadn't dissipated, but transformed into these blood-red crystalline jewels. Now it had finally formed. If not for these valuable blood god jewels, he would have long since let Devil Monarch Mad Tyrant bring him away. Why would he need engage in idle talk with Su Clan's Archie? The 4 blood god jewels fell gradually, and young Master Hai had been about to extend his hand to collect them. But at this moment, one of the blood god jewels suddenly stopped in midair. Then, it changed directions, and like it was attracted by a magnet, flew in a direction in the Blue Origin Valley. There was a young man wretchedly squatting there. Under young Master Hai's uncertain gaze, the blood god jewel just landed on the young man's palm just like that. The smile on young Master Hai's face froze. He stared at this young man, and couldn't figure out why the blood god jewel would automatically fly to this young man's hand. Then, young Master Hai was suddenly enlightened. Using the position where that man stood, he immediately calculated the position of a loophole of his blood god evil saber formation. It was just like how if you knew the answer to a complicated question, it would be easier to do the calculation processes. So that was how it was. The other side was standing in the position of a loophole of his blood god evil saber formation, and easily took a large bite of the meat that was about to enter young Master Hai's mouth. Skilled, it really was true skill. There's always a higher mountain out there. Young Master Hai is sincerely convinced. To be able to in the first time, see through the position of the loophole in the blood god evil saber formation, he had modified. Then, he had squatted there long ago and waited for advantages to fall from the sky. Young Master Hai admitted he himself didn't have this ability. That was why he was sincerely convinced. Ha ha! Song Shuhang laughed with some embarrassment. The ones who was truly skilled wasn't him, but the seniors behind him of the 9 provinces #1 group. In the sky, Su Clan's Archie was elated upon seeing this scene. Although he didn't know what had happened, he knew Song Shuhang had gotten some treasure from young Master Hai. Ha 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 ha! Archie laughed. The pressure from his body strengthened, faintly protecting Song Shuhang. Young Master Hai kept those 3 blood god jewels, and elegantly cupped his hands towards Song Shuhang in greeting. May I inquire as to this fellow Daoist title? With Su Clan's Archie around, there was no point in hoping for that blood god jewel back. Just call me Great Pressure of Mount Books. Song Shuhang showed his white teeth. Great Pressure of Mount Books? Someone who walks the path of scholars? No wonder you have this level of foresight. Young Master Hai smiled slightly. If so, I'll entrust this blood god jewel to fellow Daoist Mount Books. If I have the time, I'll pay a visit and trade back the blood god jewel. At the same time, Devil Monarch Mad Tyrant extended his hands to grab young Master Hai and Devil Monarch Anji, just like how an eagle would grab chicks. He wanted to flee far away. You're thinking of leaving just like this? Su Clan's Archie's magical saber came out of the sheath slightly. He said coldly to Devil Monarch Mad Tyrant. Others may fear your Infinity Devil sect. But I, Su Clan's Archie, am not scared of you. If you don't give me a satisfactory response today, and just leave with young Master Hai, then in the coming days I'll go and destroy 10 or so of your Infinity Devil sect branches. Devil Monarch Mad Tyrant shrugged his shoulders. Young Master Hai said warmly. Of course. It's normal for Brother Archie to be angry with me. Then those 10 or so branches, I'll give it to Brother Archie to appease your anger. We'll meet again one day. We'll meet again one day. Devil Monarch Mad Tyrant grabbed them, then fled at lightning speed. Archie even kept his saber into his sheath, and didn't give chase. From Devil Monarch Mad Tyrant's attitude towards young Master Hai, it was definitely not a simple matter of owing a favor. What exactly was young Master Hai's identity in the Infinity Devil sect? Whatever the case, this debt wasn't so easily settled. After a long time, Su Clan's Archie stepped on the empty air, and came to Song Shuhang's side as if he was walking on stairs. Song Shuhang had a blackened long saber inserted at his waist, and his right hand grasped a blood god jewel. But now his focus wasn't on these two treasures, but on his heart acupoint. His heart acupoint had a bloated feeling. With about 10 or more strands of qi and blood, he could open the heart acupoint. The 100 Days Foundation establishment was almost finished. Qi patted Song Shuhang's shoulder. Good job, little friend Shuhang. As a cultivator, you can lack anything else. But you can't lack courage. Song Shuhang looked over and grimaced. He was aching after Qi had used his hand to pat him. Usher Liu, this matter has been brought to a temporary close. Now you'll immediately return with me to the Su clan. Qi told Usher Liu. Usher Liu shook her head and rose to her feet to go inside the Blue Origin Valley. Inside the Blue Origin Valley were ruins. The Moonsaber sect disciples had been sucked dry of their life force as well as soul energy, and even their bodies had become dry corpses on the ground. The weapons, medicinal pills, as well as all the other items used by cultivators inside the valley, had all had their spiritual energy sucked by that strange giant formation, and it was as if it had experienced the long passage of years. A light touch would reduce it to scrap metal and trash. Usher Liu came to a residence in the Blue Origin Valley, and lifted her leg to step forward. The residence door had long since been ruined from the corrosion of the Blood God Evil Saber formation, and was sent flying from her kick. In the residence, the Uncle Just Heart from the Immortal Farming sect had an apathetic look on his face. He seemed to have aged a lot, and his hair had become white under the influence of the Blood God Evil Saber formation. It was good that that evil giant formation hadn't been maintained for long, or he would have ended up like those Moonsaber sect disciples, and become a dry corpse. When he saw Usher Liu, he showed a bitter smile. Now do you know how you were wrong? Usher Liu looked down at him. Uncle Just Heart began to wail. He had been inside the valley. However, the sounds from outside the valley had been so loud, and he could hear it clearly. He knew everything had been young Master Hai's plot. He knew the Moonsaber sect was history. He knew the Immortal Farming sect had sustained heavy losses. The dying cries of his junior apprentice brothers still resounded in his ears. Two clans Qi followed behind Usher Liu. He sighed heavily. Bring him and leave first. The matter regarding the Immortal Farming sect, he also had some responsibility. Now that the matter had come to an end, he couldn't remain indifferent to the Immortal Farming sect. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 140, True Monarch White is almost out. Chapter 140, True Monarch White is almost out. Just Heart was crying very gloomily. Two clans Qi sighed and used his hand to chop the back of Just Heart's neck, causing him to faint. We'll make a trip to the Immortal Farming sect first. Two clans Qi said. The entire matter was caused by him being led to the Immortal Farming sect by young Master Hai after all. Now that the Immortal Farming sect had suffered heavy losses, he also had responsibility. At this time, he had to help as much as possible. He had to at least prevent the Daoist traditions of the Immortal Farming sect from being cut off. Finally, Usher Liu and Song Shuhang climbed onto Su Clan's Qi streak of light. They dragged Just Heart behind them, and flew to the Immortal Farming sect. While flying, Song Shuhang took out his phone. He was preparing to call Talisman Mansion Master Seven Lives to report his benefits. The Blood God Jewel seemed to be a very valuable material for treasure refinement. Even the seniors in the group viewed it as a great gain. What kind of magical treasures could be refined from this? Song Shuhang secretly looked at the Blood God Jewel in his hand. As soon as he thought of how this Blood God Jewel was formed by the live sacrifice of many people, his heart would feel slightly uncomfortable. This was normal human behavior. After all, even if you knew a gem was very valuable, but if you knew it was formed by the corpse fluids of 1,000 to 10,000 people, your heart would feel uncomfortable even if it was priceless. If possible, Song Shuhang would rather trade it for treasures of the same value that were more suitable for him. However, when Song Shuhang dialed Talisman Mansion Master Seven Lives. Sorry. Your charge is overdue, please renew it, thank you. It can't be, I remember I still have a lot of call value left. How do I owe charges? Song Shuhang had a face of suspicion. Then, he suddenly thought of something. Talisman Mansion Master 7 lives, seemed to be at somewhere in the sea teaching primitives to recognize Chinese words. For him to be able to call from there was quite amazing. As for whatever phone charges, those were trivial. And as Song Shuhang had an enabled international calling, the phone charges would naturally be very expensive. In the Immortal Farming Sect, the surviving disciples all had their faces covered with gloom. All the elites the Immortal Farming Sect had sent out had died. Even the sect leader had been saved by apprentice brother Justmight and 10 or so disciples going all out. Right now the Immortal Farming Sect was extremely weak. If there were any enemies nearby that wanted to take advantage of the situation, the outcome would be disastrous. The sect leader's injuries were extremely bad, and he was already starting to make his post-mortem arrangements. Justmight. This, Immortal Farming Scripture, chronicles all our sect secrets. I'll hand it over to you now. The sect leader trembled and fished out a scripture. He put all his effort into talking to Justmight. Also, please think of a way to bring Justheart back. Let him succeed the position of sect leader. The Immortal Farming Sect is too small, and I've let you stay inside for too many years. I owe you too much. With your aptitude, it's enough to enter a famous sect 100 times better than the Immortal Farming Sect. Go and pursue a higher realm, and don't be tied down by the Immortal Farming Sect. The sect leader was filled with many emotions. Justmight's eyes were red and received the Immortal Farming Scripture. He carefully began to flip through and read it. With his memory as a rank for cultivator, Immortal Farming Scripture was memorized within moments. Inside, there was the method regarding the usage of the 7 Shine Wonder Fruit. The true use of the 7 Shine Wonder Fruit was to treat heavenly tribulation injuries. This use wasn't even known to the Immortal Farming Sect disciples. It was said there was no smoke without fire. It was this kind of meaning. In the outside, it was abuzz with the various miraculous usages of the 7 Shine Wonder Fruit. The Immortal Farming Sect even sneered at these foolish rumors in the outside world. When Just Words, who treated people warmly, gave an introduction regarding the grudge between Su Clan's Chi and the Immortal Farming Sect, he had also made fun that the rumors in the outside world were too fake. But the true use of the 7 Shine Wonder Fruit really was to treat heavenly tribulation injuries. Regarding this, only a few higher-ups of the Immortal Farming Sect knew about it. Justmight gently closed the Immortal Farming Scripture and looked at the sect leader. Rest assured, sect leader. Justheart will definitely be fine. Sect leader smiled as he nodded. He opened his mouth, wanting to say more. But at this moment, the wooden sword beside Justmight abruptly chopped out. Sword light flashed, and the sect leader's head fell. The sect leader's fresh blood gushed out. Before his death, he looked disbelievingly at his pleased eldest disciple. I didn't think that even towards the end, you would still choose Justheart. Justmight flicked off the blood on his sword and said indifferently. Just right now, I told myself this. If at the end, Master let me succeed the Immortal Farming Sect, I'll let everything in the past go. I can even properly cultivate junior apprentice brother Justheart, and let him succeed the sect leader position when he could handle everything by himself. Then, I can go and pursue a higher realm without worries. I don't care about the position of sect leader in the Immortal Farming Sect. But you said yourself you've owed me for so many years. When choosing the successor for sect leader, you actually didn't consider me? Justmight said this mockingly. He was the most talented in all the history of the Immortal Farming Sect. In the eyes of the various apprentice brothers, he was the #1 in battle prowess in the Immortal Farming Sect, as well as the gentle eldest apprentice brother. All the disciples believed no one else could be the sect leader. But what was funny was that when the sect leader considered his successor, he had never considered him from the start. And the reason was because he thought that the Immortal Farming Sect owed him, and he shouldn't be stuck in the Immortal Farming Sect. So there was no place for him as the sect leader. What kind of reason was this? The wooden sword returned to its sheath. The sect leader's spirit was completely extinguished. The immortal farming sect disciples who had survived looked stupefied at all that had happened. They couldn't believe their eyes, and it was as if it was a dream. How could this be possible? Just why would the strongest in the immortal farming sect, Apprentice Brother Justmite, kill the sect leader? It was obviously Apprentice Brother Justmite who had worked so hard to save the sect leader from the Moonsaber sect, so why? Why? The Justwords who treated people warmly shouted. He madly lunged at Justmite, chaotically flailing his arms about. Why? If you must have a reason, it's very simple. I'm just following Master's last wish, to escape the ties that the immortal farming sect has with me, so that I can pursue a higher realm. Apprentice Brother Justmite easily avoided Justword's attack. In the end, his sword stabbed out. The sword tip lightly poked Justword's forehead. Sword light was revealed. A bloody injury appeared on his forehead, but Justmite didn't take the life of Justwords. A force erupted from the sword, and pushed Justwords back. So, all I did was fulfill Master's last wishes. Justmite said indifferently. At this time, 3 figures descended from the sky. The Devil Monarch Mad Tyrant with fierce features was flying on a shuttle-type flying magical treasure. By his side was the young Master Hai, who was in ragged clothes but maintained his elegant demeanor as usual, as well as the Devil Monarch Anji, who had his features covered by black smoke. Looks like you succeeded over here as well. Young Master Hai laughed lightly, then extended his hand towards Justmite. It's time. We need to go, Brother Justmite. Millimeter, Justmite nodded. He grasped young Master Hai's hand, and stepped on that shuttle-type flying magical treasure. Justmite! The Justwords behind shouted in rage. You won't die a good death. Won't die a good death? An interesting conclusion. However, from the moment I became a cultivator, I never thought I would die a peaceful death. Justmite turned around, and looked like a scholar as usual. However, his bearing was sharper than before. In this life, I'll either validate the Grand Tao, and achieve immortality, or I'll die a spectacular death. If one doesn't even have this understanding, one shouldn't become a cultivator. Young Master Hai showed a look of appreciation. Receive it. Justmite's hand suddenly flung something, and threw that immortal farming scripture to Justwords. His eyes showed ridicule. This records the traditans and inheritances and of the immortal farming sect, and various secrets. Go and bring Junior Apprentice Brother Justheart back. Master's second wish, wasn't it for him to become the sect leader? Justwords clutched the immortal farming scripture, eyes filled with hate. All of you, continue to guard the small Daoist traditions of the immortal farming sect. Die in peace. If any of you have the backbone, get stronger with your hate of me. Then come find me for revenge. Of course, your chances of seeing me again are very remote. From today, the distance between us will become bigger and bigger. If we meet again, you all will be nothing but insignificant ants to me. Young Master Hai smiled lightly. We should get going, or else Su Clan's Archie will catch up. Devil Monarch Mad Tyrant activated the flying magical treasure below his feet, and they rose into the sky. On the ground, Justwords clutched the immortal farming scripture, as he howled towards the heavens. Tears covered his face. Brother Justmite really is a gentle person. Young Master Hai smiled. He was referring to Justmite throwing the immortal farming scripture to the immortal farming sect. Whatever the case, this is still the place that raised me. Justmite laughed, and the power on his body dissipated. He now looked like a delicate scholar now. Crocodile tears. Devil Monarch Anji coldly harumphed. You don't understand, Devil Monarch Anji. Young Master Hai smiled. Yes. You don't understand, Brother Anji. Justmite then asked. Has the 7-Shine Wonder Fruit been obtained? Of course. Young Master Hai flipped his hand, and showed that 7-Shine Wonder Fruit. He then took out another 3 Blood God Jewels. There are only 3 Blood God Jewels? Weren't there 4? Justmite frowned. Some problems happened halfway through. But it doesn't matter. 3 is just nice for the 3 of us. As for the last one, there will surely be a chance to get it back. Young Master Hai smiled. That's fine as well. Just Might nodded his head. Very quickly, the figures of 4 people disappeared into the horizon, towards the mysterious Infinity Devil sect. What Song Shuhang didn't know was that as his phone couldn't go online anymore as he owed charges, the 9 Provinces #1 group was very lively. At all members, True Monarch White has just contacted me. He said he'll come out of secluded meditation in about 20 days. Have we decided who is to receive him? True Monarch Mount Huang asked in the group. At that time when Loose Cultivator North River and the rest had screwed over Song Shuhang by getting him to receive True Monarch White, True Monarch Mount Huang had happened to not be online at that time. That was why he would ask this. Loose Cultivator North River said, "Ha ha, True Monarch White is finally coming out." At great pressure of Mount Books, "Are you ready? Quickly get your driving license. At the same time I'll arrange for you to go and learn to fly when you're free." Mad Saber 3 Waves, there's probably no time to learn to fly a plane anymore. At that time why not let Song Shuhang learn together with True Monarch White? If something happens, True Monarch White can still use sword flight to bring Song Shuhang to escape with his life. Millimeter, to be accurate, it should when something definitely happens. The plane will definitely crash, right? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know a report chapter, so we can fix it as soon as possible.